One, two. Check. Start again. Good evening. My name is Jim Sandman. I'm Vice Chair of the DC Public Charter School Board. I'm chairing this meeting tonight in the absence of our board chair, Chantal Wright, who is unable to be with us. Chantal has left proxy votes for each agenda item that requires a vote. Today is our regular monthly meeting, the second of 3 board meetings this month. I'd like to welcome my fellow board members and colleagues. Treasurer Carissa Stanley Beatty, Secretary Shakura Adamafanian, Leah Cruzy, and Dwight Davis. We have a full agenda this evening covering important matters that affect the students, families, and school communities we serve. As always, we approach this work grounded in our mission to ensure that DC students receive a quality education that makes them feel valued and prepares them for lifelong learning, fulfilling careers, and economic security. I want to thank my fellow board members, DC PCSB staff, school leaders, and members of the public for being here tonight and for your continued engagement and partnership. Public comment is an important part of our meetings, and we welcome the voices and perspectives shared with us. I'd now like to turn it over to Dr. Walker Davis.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sandman. Good evening, board members and our viewing public. Thank you for joining tonight's board meeting. Tonight's agenda includes several important items I'd like to briefly highlight. First, we will hold a public hearing for the one charter application we received during this application cycle. Information about our rigorous evaluation process and the application itself is available on our website, and I encourage everyone to review it. Tonight, the board will hear from the public and the founding group. The board will vote next month. Next, staff will ask the board to consider issuing 5 notices of concern to schools. One is related to violating the mystery caller initiative, and the others address truancy concerns. On the truancy front, I want to remind the board and the public that in August 2024, we presented a detailed attendance and truancy presentation, which included hearing from schools on how they sought to address the issue, during which we stated our intention to resume enforcing our truancy policy this school year. Tonight's notices reflect that commitment to ensuring students are present and engaged in their learning. We have plans to revise this policy to bring it in line with the city's approach and ours to chronic absenteeism. Finally, we will close the meeting discussing school finances and reading into record the charter relinquishment of Hope Community Public Charter School. We recognize that the decision to relinquish a charter has a profound and personal impact on students, families, and staff. We also understand that this decision was not made lightly by Hope Community's leadership and board, and it is not taken lightly by DC PCSB either. In response, we are actively working with the interim CEO of Hope Community to support the school through this transition. The school has already taken important steps, including direct communication with families and staff. They will host a school fair tomorrow to assist families in finding new placements, and PCSB, as well as My School DC, will be on site to support our families. I, along with Hope Community leadership, have notified My School DC, OSSI, DCPS, partner agencies, and the DC Council about the school's decision to close at the end of this academic year. Thank you, and I look forward to a robust meeting tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Walker Davis. At the beginning of every board meeting, the DC Public Charter School Board hears public testimony related to items on the agenda and listens to testimony for topics not related to agenda items. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. If you need to make a few additional points, please email your testimony for us to read to public.comment@dcpcsb.org. Public officials who sign up to testify will be allowed to speak for up to 5 minutes. The hand-raising feature has been disabled. As a reminder, all written public comment is available to the public on our website. If you would like to register to provide testimony or submit a written comment to the board, you can find all testimony, registration, and submission information on our website under the Public Comment tab at dcpcsb.org. You can also submit your comments to public.comment@dcpcsb.org or call our public comment line to leave voicemail testimony at 202-328-2660 and select option 2. As we move through each speaker, Courtney and Jonah, our Zoom hosts for the evening, will promote each speaker from the attendee pool and unmute the individual speaking. We'll hear from 10 individuals tonight who signed up to speak. I'd like to invite to testify before the board now, Emmanuel Smaja. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. So I'm Emmanuel Smaja. I go by Emmanuel. I'm the founder of Empower Financing, a company here in the district that has financed over 10,000 international students to the US and Canada last year alone. We finance students primarily from Africa and India. I've done this for the past 11 years, and again, always based here in the district. I share this as an illustration that I'm deeply passionate about educational access and affordability, like a lot of the people here. That's why also I find it so refreshing to me that Stratzy and the team at NUU are innovating on process, and they challenge the boundaries between high school and college. They also focus, in my view, on the #1 issue that students have with college today, which is value. In other words, is it worth spending $200,000 or $300,000 on an undergraduate education and being in debt for the next decade or 2 or 3? NUU's focus is really on highly capable and value-minded high schoolers. And as I reviewed their model, as I've had many conversations with Stratzy and his team, what stands out to me is the following. In 11th and 12th grade, the students get credit for up to 2 years of college, and then they can accelerate their remaining 2 years into 1. The team leverages adjuncts and underutilized urban spaces, and by doing away with fancy stadiums or amenities, Stratzy and his team have also massively reduced the overall cost of attendance for college. This isn't theory. Stratzy and his team have been operating a college for the past 5 years in the district and are progressively proving that NUU can become the fastest and most affordable pathway to a college degree in the nation. So with that, I wholeheartedly support the charter application for NUU Early College. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we'll hear from Samuel Leslie. Mr. Leslie isn't here. We'll move on to Jada George.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jada George. I am an alumni from High School of Washington Latin, as well as future alumni of NUU University. As a DC resident myself, I feel as though allowing students, high school students, to integrate into college classes gives them more opportunities to focus on their career and honestly get like my apologies, dip their toe into it and just get more details of it. Me being an entrepreneur major, I feel as though if I had a bit of more experience getting into the entrepreneur field earlier, I probably would have thought more into going into it than I do now. I feel like with other students, getting a good career path and getting more connections to your career path is honestly helpful. At Washington Latin, I feel as though I had a lot of opportunities, but I feel as though connecting with colleges, I would have had more opportunities. But I feel as though it also saves them time. It saves students time and money. They also get a chance to Yeah, so they get real world experiences with the college classes and everything. So just getting them started on their career early is basically why I feel as though we should allow high schoolers into our college classrooms. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. George. Next, we'll hear from Clyde Solomon.
Hello.
Welcome, Mr. Solomon. You may proceed.
Hello. My name is Clyde Solomon. I live in Ward 4. I have a grandson who I'm raising, who is a first-year student at New U University. The collegiate experience so far has been exactly as advertised, which I initially thought was, quote, too good to be true. I truly believe that New U Early College High School is an ideal that has merit. It provides an affordable way, free, for parents to provide a quality high school and college education to our children. Parents, grandparents, guardians all want our children to have opportunity to do well in life, and we know that education is a stepping stone. The mission of New U Early College Charter makes it a quality, affordable stepping stone. I strongly urge the DC PCSB to approve the New U Early College Charter now. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Solomon. Next, we'll hear from Danielle Schmutz.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Schmutz, and I serve as the Executive Director of Beacon House, a longstanding youth development organization rooted in Ward 5, Washington, D.C. For over 30 years, we have walked alongside young people and their families, many who are navigating economic hardship and facing systemic barriers to opportunity, helping them access education, mentorship, opportunity. And every day, I see incredibly talented students who are ready to succeed, yet face overwhelming barriers, the rising cost of college, the long and uncertain road to a degree, and the crushing weight of debt. Too often, I see students who are spending 5, 6, sometimes 7 years trying to complete college, and many come away without a degree, but with significant debt that follows them for years and years. New U Early College PCS offers a different path that I think is really an important, interesting opportunity. It would support 11th and 12th grade students in completing their high school diploma while simultaneously earning college credit, shortening the time, lowering the cost, and keeping both high school graduation and higher education within reach. For many young people, this provides the structure and support they need to reach both high school graduation and a college degree. This model would not just make college more accessible, it would make it possible for many students in the district. I strongly urge the DC Public Charter School Board to approve the New U Early College PCS application. Our young people deserve a path that leads them all the way from high school to college graduation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Schmutz. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Next, we welcome Anna Acclimati.
Good evening to all. Thank you for this opportunity to speak this evening. I'll start with this. To afford the cost of a four-year college degree today, it would require a family to save about $24,000 every single year from the time a child turns 12 to about 18 or graduate high school. And this is for one child. For most families in DC and across the country, that is just simply impossible. My name is Anna Aklamati, and I'm here in support of New U Early College Public Charter School, a school that you all have heard about. It is designed to make college accessible for our students. I am a DC native and a DC resident. I am a DCPS graduate and a mom of 4 young children whose future I am actively planning for. New U Early College PCS will serve 11th and 12th graders. And by the time they graduate, students will have earned up to 80 college credits, which is 2/3 or about of a bachelor's degree. And they can even transfer these credits to another university, which is also a plus. This model doesn't just make college preparation stronger, it makes college affordable, attainable, and a real possibility for a lot of our youth in the District of Columbia. I truly wish a school like this was an option when I was in high school. It would have saved my family a lot of time, headaches, and money, of course. New U isn't just about future dreams. It's about delivering college degrees within reach and without leaving in debt. It's about removing financial barriers before they block the paths of our most talented young people. I am in support of New U Early College PCPS, as I believe it does give students the future they deserve, where an education is not just a privilege, but it is a right for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aklamati. Next, we'll hear from Kenneth Ward. We haven't been able to locate Mr. Ward in the waiting area. We'll move on to Janice Davis.
Audio and my video. Thank you. I've got my audio on, so okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Janice Davis. I am a 5th generation Washingtonian, a DC public school graduate and a businesswoman and a resident of Ward 4. I hold a master's degree in urban education from GW and worked in the DC public school system for 12 years. I come from a long family of DC educators. 3, including my mom, were principals and 3 were teachers. After leaving the system, I also served on 2 nonprofit private school boards. And as an activist, I continue to stay engaged in our community. My grandson, one of her 5 boys, attends New U. He loves it, and so does my daughter, who is faced with 3 college tuitions. Statistics indicate that many of the higher paying jobs do not go to our residents, but those people from other states. Traditional universities have also seen a sharp decrease of male enrollment and greater attrition of those who enter, especially students of color. New U School and its targeted curriculum offers a path to social and economic success in an increasingly complex and challenging world, where tuition, time, and disparity serve as barriers to opportunity. Washington, D.C. needs New U, Early College Public Charter School, and I urge the board to consider this application.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Next, we'll hear from Shirley Thompson.
Hi. I've been in the field of education for over 40 years. I've taught middle school, high school, undergraduate and graduate students, both here and abroad. Currently, a colleague and I run an educational training company that works with teachers at all levels. I know the challenges that our educational system faces. My children attended DCPS. My grandson attended E.L. Haynes Public Charter School and graduated from DCI International. He's now finishing his first year at New U University. We've seen the innovative ways that charter schools can address problems in our community. The early college program proposed by New U is just the sort of innovation that's needed to address some of the challenges young people face. Many high schools are both qualified and motivated to attend college, but lack the financial means. In addition, some come from families that have not attended college themselves and may lack the experience to be able to effectively support their child's desire to earn a college degree. By addressing these issues while students are still in high school, the early college program can reach students who might otherwise become totally discouraged about ever being able to prepare for and attend college. New U has proven its ability to create a well-thought-out, top-notch program with highly qualified faculty, a small, supportive environment. Students are encouraged to obtain broad knowledge of the world and eventually focus on a major that will help them thrive in the world that awaits them after graduation. This new program would be an excellent addition to what we can offer to our young people. I strongly encourage you to support this visionary program, the New U Early College Program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Our final speaker this evening is Suzanne Wells.
Thank you. I'm testifying to oppose a new charter for New U Early College Public Charter School. The numbers speak for themselves. The District of Columbia currently has 37 high schools. Let that sink in for a minute. 18 of the high schools are DCPS schools, of which 8 are application high schools. There are 19 public charter schools. Our city simply does not need another high school, no matter what program it is offering. It is estimated the city has 3,600 unfilled seats in our public high schools. Adding another high school will only exacerbate this problem. Deputy Mayor of Education Paul Kine has warned for years that the district is on a dangerous path of too many unintentionally small high schools. Small schools are more expensive to maintain and place greater pressures on the overall education budget. The city already has a program similar to that of New U Early College. At Bard High School Early College, students can graduate in 4 years with a high school degree and an Associate of Arts degree from Bard College. Opening a new charter high school becomes a trade-off in investing in new and untested models or investing in improvements of existing high schools. The Public Charter School Board has shown little willingness to consider the equity problems that come from opening new schools without a growing student population. If New U Early College opens and enrolls 144 students, those students will come from other high schools in the city. In addition, just days ago, Friendship Collegiate Academy tweeted they are going to create 400 new seats. Since August of 2024, 3 charter schools have closed in part due to low enrollment. Apparently, the Public Charter School Board does not consider or care that a new charter school will inevitably cause the enrollment to go down at other schools and possibly cause them to close. Maybe this is the Public Charter School Board's strategy to cause schools with low enrollments that often happen to have higher at-risk populations to close. Please do not approve the New U Early College application.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Thank you to our speakers this evening. That concludes the public comment portion of our agenda. Next on our agenda is a charter application from New U Early College. For this item, I welcome Bijan Lane, Specialist, Sector Planning and Compliance in the School Performance Department, to introduce the application.
Hello. My name is Bijan Lane. It's muted. It's muted. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Hello, my name is Bijan Lane. I am a specialist in the school performance department. Tonight, the board will hear from the founding members of New U Early College, who propose opening a new public charter high school with a dual enrollment partnership with New U University. New U University is a recently established university seeking accreditation and operating in Ward 2. Stratsky Kolinsky, the university's president and CEO, is the proposed New U Early College head of school. He plans to lead both entities. The founding team proposes opening the public charter school in August 2025, co-locating with the university and enrolling grades 11 and 12 exclusively. Earlier this month, DC PCSB board and staff reviewed the New U Early College charter application and discussed it with the founding team during a capacity interview. Tonight's hearing is an opportunity for the public to hear from the applicant group and for the board to ask additional questions. In addition to tonight's testimony, DC PCSB received 31 written comments supporting the application. During the May public meeting, the board will vote to approve or deny the New U Early College application. At this time, I welcome the members of New U Early College to introduce themselves, and then the board will ask its questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to invite representatives from the school to come forward. Jonas Rolette, Betsy Garcette, Claudia Diamante, Matthew Baker, Ruth Lyons, Statsky Kolinsky, and Dr. Victoria Zatova.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, DC PCSB staff, fellow residents, good evening, and thanks for having us. As you can see, most members of the founding team are here. You've received dozens of written comments and many live testimonies, almost all of which favor this proposed school. Those voices, parents, educators, nonprofit leaders, and DC residents are sharing a clear message that DC students urgently need a new type of school. DC youth face one of the nation's worst unemployment and earnings crises due to large gaps in the attainment of college degrees. Our team developed a solution that gives teens the fastest and most affordable pathway to better futures. Our next generation early college model empowers students to complete their first 2 years of college while in grades 11 and 12, earning significant credits. And upon finishing high school, they can transfer or they can complete a bachelor's with our university partner in 1 additional year, which will be tuition-free and debt-free. We don't think there's anything like this available to students in DC today. It's not a plain vanilla early college, and I think it's an important dynamic to acknowledge. We think we will meet an acute need and a significant unmet demand. It will cost 0 incremental dollars to the district. It won't duplicate existing programs, and it could help reduce OC's dual enrollment spending overall. We worked hard to build it, and we're proud to present this innovative solution to our home community in DC before anywhere else in the country. We believe that the community demands urgency, and we're prepared to launch now. Without any public funding and at our own expense, we've already completed much of what others typically build in the months after conditional approval. So we bring to the table a safe, modern campus centrally located in DC, deployed SIS and IT platforms, almost all of the instructional and support staff that the school will need. All of the agreements with a partner university are already drafted and were included in our application. We believe we've demonstrated strong need and demand and a readiness to launch. Unfortunately, PCSB's initial assessment misses much of that. We were, frankly, taken aback by the disconnect, and we are wondering whether concerns about excess capacity, excess cost, and depriving existing schools of students may have led to an informal moratorium on new charters. We wish we were given the opportunity to engage with the full board before today. Our requests for meetings were denied, and we also saw some factual errors, procedural issues, and unsubstantiated claims in the initial assessment and the activities leading up to it. We have documented and submitted these via email due to the limited speaking time here. So we are actually objecting to the validity and veracity of the initial assessment, and we would respectfully request a reassessment across all 5 standards. Allow me to elaborate briefly. On need and demand, PCSB incorrectly likened our model to other early colleges, ignoring the unique design and purpose to put students on the fastest, most affordable path to college completion, not simply to enroll them. We made this clear in our application. It's even in the mission statement of the school. PCSB also dismissed a professionally conducted, statistically meaningful survey and demand findings, and years of deep community engagement were labeled nascent. On the site visit to our partner university, we only received 24 hours notice, and to our dismay, the event was scheduled for a 15-minute visit. We accommodated that. We gave access to students, faculty, and staff, and we stood ready to meet any request contrary to some of what's in their report. In any event, years of rigorous accreditor reviews and site visits confirming the New U's consistent and sustained instructional quality, student support, and institutional integrity seem to be ignored. Last one, on financial responsibility, the initial assessment authors incorrectly portrayed our facility costs as excessive, despite their alignment with other DC charter schools. They also ignore the benefits of the variable cost model that ensures financial viability, even in contingency scenarios. The school will use public funds more efficiently across the board, and we're even prepared to forego the $750,000 OSI planning grant as we propose a fall 2025 launch. Again, you can find the full list of issues with the initial assessment in the document that was emailed to PCSB at the beginning of this hearing. Our team is ready and willing to work with you to bring this school to DC. And as we communicated in the capacity interview, we, as any other conditionally approved school, are more than ready to meet conditions you deem appropriate. Anything short of conditional approval would deprive DC students and parents of free college. We look forward to working with this board to show Congress and the nation that DC is a leader in school reform and innovation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the school's representatives?
I think we're prepared to answer questions if and as appropriate.
You mentioned something emailed to the board. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Do you want to say something?
Of course. Good evening. First, I would like to open by saying that we are here ready to work with you, and we do share the mission that you read at the beginning of this hearing, that a mission that is grounded in fostering students for lifelong learning and fulfilling careers. And this is what we are proposing to work with you to contribute to that in DC with our work. Regarding the email, so we received the initial assessment at the end of last week. And we were taken aback, frankly, by some of the findings and the factual errors that are there. We prepared a document that is, I believe, 15 or 16 pages, detailing all of that with references to our application. And just to give, I don't want to spend this time elaborating in detail. You have that with you. We would rather share with you what we are proposing to do. But just to give one example to show that our concern is valid. So for example, in a couple of places, the assessment falsely states that the special education coordinator will not be hired until year 2, when in fact, we plan to hire the special education coordinator before our proposed opening in fall 2025. And this is explicitly stated on the very first page of our application, as well as on pages 64, 73, 94, and 95 of the application. And we really hope that you take a look and consider what we have submitted and evaluate our application based on its merits and all the work that we have been doing, not just on this application, but for years for the DC community with DC partners and DC students. And we are really hoping to be able to work with you to bring this innovation to DC, and are very excited to be here today and answer any questions about the innovative model that we are proposing.
Vice Chair Sandman. Just for the board's edification, we received the email that is being referenced at 6 o'clock at the beginning of this hearing. That is why it is not in your package.
Yes, thank you. We obviously have not had an opportunity to review your submission. I would ask Bijan and the staff to prepare for the board a response to what's been submitted before the next meeting. Now I'd like to open it to questions from my fellow board members.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Sandman. Good evening to the New U school team. Let me start here. What are the challenges you foresee in only enrolling students in grades 11 through 12 when, and I think in the public comment, one of the witnesses named a very robust ecosystem of high schools. What do you foresee is the challenge of only enrolling students in grades 11 and 12? And how do you see that impact to your program model? And I do have a follow-up question, but let's start there.
Thank you for the question. My name is Straci Kulinski. I'm the proposed head of school, also president of New U University. So it's interesting, kind of the only person who spoke in opposition to our proposal seems to use the same arguments that she used 3 years ago with ISM Creative Academy, that there are too many schools, that the district is spreading its resources too often over too many schools, and that this program is just like anything else. So there are multiple fallacies with those statements. The first one is that we are just like any other program. It couldn't be farther from the truth. The proposed program is truly differentiated in its structure, in its duration, and its outcomes. Staff actually gave us their perspective in the initial assessment and stated that DC college enrollment is at pre-pandemic levels, if I'm quoting correctly, at 59%. That is great, but this is not what we're going for. College enrollment is not the end in sight, and it shouldn't be an end in itself. Actually, national averages for college enrollment are higher than that. So that alone in itself is a problem, but college completion is the real challenge, because the bachelor's degree is the really empowering credential that allows students and their families to really achieve upward economic mobility and lifelong success and be better engaged in society and all that. So our program not only enrolls students in college, but actually gives them the shortest and most affordable path to a bachelor's degree in just 1 year. There is no other early college, not just in DC, but in the entire country. We speak with charitable foundations, we speak with charter school supporters and charter school organizations across the country. And everybody who hears about our model, the reaction is always, wow, this is great. We've never seen this.
I apologize. Sincerely, I want to make sure we answer the question. I completely understand the model, reviewed it, get it. My question is about actually attracting, or the challenges that you foresee attracting 11th grade students who would have been already engaged in their high school career beginning 9th grade, and essentially you would be asking them to, at the end of their 10th grade year, come to your school to engage in your program. What are the challenges you all foresee in attracting and retaining the student population you seek to serve? That if you can just go right there, that'll be helpful.
Certainly. I was just addressing kind of the premise that we're the same as the other charter schools. So attracting students in 11th grade is actually giving them an opportunity where, I mean, nobody's forced to choose this program, but it is a tremendous opportunity. We saw that through our primary survey engagement with our community partners. So people really want that. They can't wait for it to happen. I don't think we're going to have challenges enrolling students. I mean, our demand survey and forecasts and kind of our community engagement clearly demonstrate that. Just yesterday, we had a 10th grader from Washington Leadership Academy who came to campus with his mom, and they were like, sign me up. Like, where do I sign up? So in terms of challenges, we actually have a very good understanding of kind of the channels to market and how to reach students in the community through our past work with the university. And we can literally leverage those things. I acknowledge it's an aggressive timeline, but we can attract students even for this fall should there be the opportunity to do that. And if the charter school board decides that this is not feasible within your own timeframes, we've already expressed flexibility that with a conditional approval now, we can still look at kind of potentially launching next year. That would obviously put us in the DC lottery window as well, which again...
I'm sorry. I want to go back. You said that conditional approval will position you all to launch next year, not in August of 25, according to your application?
No, our application is for fall of 25. However, we got so much pushback during the capacity interview that we are left with the impression that the charter school board itself is not prepared to move that quickly. We are prepared. We are ready. We have the assets and the capabilities that we presented. And we don't see a challenge attracting the very small cohort of 33 students for this fall. So if you're asking about our challenges with enrollment, I don't think there are going to be any. And if you're asking about the challenges for students coming into the program, I would defer to Ruth and Victoria, who can talk from their perspective as longtime educators working with similar students to talk about how this would not be a challenge, but again, we see it as a tremendous opportunity.
Yeah, that's a board. Hi there, Ruth.
Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Ruth Lyons. Yeah, I've had over a decade of experience in education. I've worked in several high schools across the world on 3 different continents. I have basically had a career-long focus on expanding access to education. I've done this through the IB Diploma Program, where I act as the Chief Examiner for the IB Diploma Program, English A Language and Literature, for over 5,000 schools across the world. Now, one of the main things I've noticed in all the high schools that I've worked in, it's all very similar issues, very similar challenges that students face. And students want to be challenged, and they want to start really making choices that affect their career later on in life, from an early age of 17 or even 16 years old. Our model really allows them to engage that student autonomy that is needed at that age to be able to make a decision like this in terms of going and making getting college career ready. I'd say one of the big challenges I've noticed in the past is leadership, clear communication from leadership and trying to engage that autonomy for students. We are aware of that. I've seen that in motion. I've worked with that across many different high schools. Yeah, so that is the main challenge that I see. There's nothing that we can't find a solution to.
Thank you. I know, board, I'll turn this over to you all. I just, I will name that I hear everything that you're saying. And again, I understand the model that you're presenting and how unique and new it is. I will name though, it is a bit concerning to me that even with such a model that you all believe in, still not being able to name concrete challenges, real challenges to attracting students in the 11th grade, right in the middle of their high school career at a very critical moment that whether they decide to move on to New U University or elsewhere, I mean, it really does count at that grade level, and not to hear sort of challenges that you all anticipate, it's concerning to me. And so I just wanted to name that. I want to turn it over to my other board members before, but if you think of anything that could get in the way of you successfully enrolling students, I would love to hear that. Yeah.
Can we respond? Do we have the time to respond?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we heard the challenge listed and enumerated, so I am a little, again, surprised that it's mischaracterized as we're not presenting the challenges. There are always challenges with enrollment. You have to create awareness for the school. That's a challenge, but are we going to really question the basic business acumen of the team after we have run an educational institution for several years that just became a member of Middle States Accreditor? There are challenges always. Operational, strategic, marketing. There are a myriad of challenges of doing anything in education. And we tackle those challenges every day. We plan, we strategize, we execute. We are a small, nimble, agile team. And just the very premise that somehow we are not familiar with the challenges of education is just false. So yeah, about enrollment and bringing people in 11th grade, yes, there are Superman, like a ton of challenges. People will have to come to our campus from different wards, but already 80% of students in DC go to a high school outside of their ward even. So we have to create the awareness. We have to do the outreach to the parents and to the community through our partners and through the schools that we have worked with. And obviously, we have to give great experience and great value for people who are taking the risk and taking that bold step to change their high school in 11th grade. Yes, it's not a traditional point of changing high schools, but we're also not living in a traditional world. Like the challenges that we face as a society are just fundamentally different from anything we've seen before. And again, so many people spoke from the community, from their heart about the need for free, debt-free, tuition-free college. So many parents told us through our primary survey and through our engagements over the years that if this existed, they would be absolutely ready and willing to sign up their kids in 11th grade, and the students themselves working with organizations like College Bound and talking to students from all wards that they serve and advising them on college. Many of those students are interested and willing to switch in 11th grade.
Ms. Kalinsky, do you have a comment? If so, could you identify your position with the school?
This is actually
Please
Sarah
go ahead.
on the phone, probably using my link because there was some technical challenges with the registrations.
Sorry, can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to add to that in support. Just please, if I could introduce myself, because I know the name is not correct, but I am a professor at American University in the district. I'm also the co-founder of a daycare in Navy Yard that's OSSI registered and accepts vouchers for low-income students. And for that reason, because of my commitment to low-income students in the district, I agreed to help New U with partnership building. So I've sat in the room while they've had these conversations and very supportive of what they're trying to do. I also have 2 children who went to charter schools in the District of Columbia.
Could I interrupt? Are you with the school? Are you?
So yes, you can assume that I'm with the school, and so I'm rounding out simply.
Are you part of the founding group? If this is public comment that you have, our time for public comment is closed.
No, I'm part of the founding team.
Could someone from the school validate that?
Yes, Sarah has been helping us most recently after we submitted the application and has been closely involved in planning for and preparing for launch.
My question is she part of the founding team of your school?
At this point,
yes. Or no?
At this point, yes.
You may proceed.
Thank you, sir. All I want to say is that we know that it's not easy for kids to leave a school that they're already in. This is true. And I've experienced that myself when I've moved my children from DC Bilingual to Mundo Verde Public Charter School. They didn't want to go because they had their friends there. They're really enjoying themselves. Of course, it's a different level age group, but we see that throughout K through 12. But the reality is that this is a program that's going to serve them in a way that they wouldn't have available if they choose to go to a paid program in college, in university level. We're offering them an alternative. So the financial benefit for their family is very strong. And for that reason, we think that it's a family level decision for them to make that choice and to move to a different school. And so we do recognize it. We're an optimistic group in the sense that we believe that we can recruit and retain these students because they've already done this at the university level very successfully.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call on Board Member Davis.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for being here, team. My question kind of gets at what Secretary Shakur was saying, and it has to do with some of the challenges, right? So your model is a phenomenal model, a phenomenal concept in the sense that students can spend, one additional year after 11th and 12th and have a college degree. That's great. But what you're saying is that in a matter of 3 years, you will cover 6 years of academic content, 11th grade, 12th grade, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, right? So my question is, can you talk to us about how you plan to cover 6 years worth of content in 3 years? Specifically, when we look at 11th and 12th grade standards, let's take DC history, for example. How do you cover all of that content? Additionally, when students are not where we expect them to be academically, how do you then move the students who may be a year or two behind, now 8 years ahead, right? So when we're talking about identifying the challenges, we're looking for you to speak to, like, hey, we've thought about this so thoroughly that if we have student A, student B, student C, this is how they will progress through. Because these are some of the questions that we sit with.
Wonderful. So let me get started. Thank you so much for this question because it really allows us to tell you the gist of what we are proposing and how we are going to accomplish everything that you say. So we all know.
Please speak to the specific question because every time we ask a question, we kind of get off track a little bit. I need you to speak specifically to the question, please.
Happy to. So we all know that there are many plain vanilla early college programs out there that in 11th and 12th grade complete college level coursework, and some by the end, some actually very few from all of those enrolled in early college attain an associate's degree. So this is already out there, right? It's nothing new, and that's something that exists. What New U University does is restructure not the amount of work, but simply the scheduling. So 4 years or 8 semesters rather of college is spread over 6 semesters that are longer than the typical semester. So that's New U University's innovation. So when we combine the two, we get this enhanced early college program that doesn't try to compress 6 or 8 years into 2 or 3. I think this is really not true. This is not what we describe. We are combining what already exists as your early college program and with the restructured semester length of a 3-year bachelor's degree that is still 120 credit hours. So there is nothing that is overburdening the students in terms of credits or learning. And to your question about, for example, DC history, which is, of course, a DC-specific requirement. And I'm sure we can talk more about that. But just to give an example, we have done the mapping of the requirements of for DC high school graduation with the university curriculum, specifically beginning with the core curriculum, which is equivalent to the general education requirements in any university. So there are plans for the high school students who are taking the college level curriculum in the modern world class, which covers history, world history, among other subjects, to also cover DC history and US history as it already does. So these mappings are already in place, and we are ready to launch this this fall. The application contains the whole schedule for the first semester with all courses. And for that, contrary to some of the assessment, we only need to hire 2 teachers. And again, contrary to the initial assessment, we are ready even for those classes because we have identified that there are available teachers. We have created and included in the application the syllabi for those classes, and also have the job descriptions included in the applications for those teacher positions. So we are ready to launch and include all DC graduation requirements in the curriculum. This is already laid out very clearly in our application. And we are not, this is something that we do with our currently enrolled DC students in the university. Many of them didn't think they would ever be able to go to college because maybe they were never good in math. They were never good at writing, and they thought that would preclude them from enrolling and succeeding in college. But we have the very distinguished, very experienced staff, very distinguished professors who love being part of this community because they engage on a small classroom scale with these students. They mentor them, they help them get internships, and this is something that is transformative for the students who maybe did not do so well in high school, but they're thriving in a college environment that provides all of the supports. So we can talk a lot longer about all of this, but I'm glad that you raised this question. So we clarified that we're not condensing. We are combining 2 innovations to allow students to graduate with a credential in record time and with no debt and no out-of-pocket cost for that family.
If I may just jump in, forgive me for that, but just to answer your question, Board Member Davis, it's a great question. We're not combining the high school and the college curriculum and asking students to take both. We're mapping the college classes to the Carnegie units that are requirements of the high school curriculum. And by doing so, we presented very convincingly in our application that covers about 75% of the high school class requirements. So the remaining 25% are high school specific classes like PE and art appreciation and chemistry and physics and all that. But the vast majority are already classes that basically do double duty. They serve as both high school classes and as college classes. And that's why you don't have to really think about it as 6 years or 8 years. It's the first 2 years of our 3-year bachelor's program that also mirrors and does double duty as high school classes. And does that make sense?
And you had another piece to your question about how are we going to support the students that are behind even at grade 10. So we explicitly discussed this in our application. We recognize that we will have a random sampling of students from across the district who are willing to take a chance, right? We don't know who would be willing to sign up and move in 11th grade. So all that we can do is assume the average population in DC, and we're very familiar with that population. So how are we going to support them if they're behind? Well, we have already explained that we have budget for additional teachers to support them if they're behind and they need to take more high school specific classes and they're not ready. So we have a minimum grade requirement for high school classes before coming into the program. That's also in the application. So we take an individualized approach to working with every student, creating the individualized plan for them to see where they're at, what kind of support and what kind of classes they need in order to be able to take the rigorous college program. I'm sure Matthew can also talk about, and Ruth, how we are making sure that we are not separating the students, but we are actually supporting them and engaging them with the curriculum, ensuring that they don't fall further behind.
I just add to that there, Ruth Lyons. It is standard in public schools and public charter schools here in DC that from grade 9 or even earlier, students are making graduation plans. So by the time they would come to us and look at applying at to this school, they will have a graduation plan in hand. Now, of course, there are students that might be coming from other places that might not have that, and we are prepared for that when and if that happens. But with that graduation plan in hand, we plan for all students to work closely with our leadership to build those individualized programs. We call them ILPs in the education plan and the application. And we have that individualized approach to ensure that they do get those credits both in high school and in the college program as well. So we are aware that we need to have flexibility, and we do have an adaptable approach. We do mention that we have that overlap, particularly in content with the coursework that we're doing here right now in New U University. We have rhetoric, which an awful lot of the content overlaps with ELA. We have modern world, and a lot of that overlaps with high school history, data analytics with maths and so on. So this is all, we've had a lot of meetings and we've crunched the numbers, and the mapping does make sense. And I know it does sound a bit too good to be true.
And it meets the OSIS standards.
It does, yes, that's the most important thing.
Can you?
Oh, yeah, OSIS. So we are making sure that we have the 40 credits needed according to the Carnegie units. Again, we look at that graduation plan. Some students might be coming in and they already have their credits for music. Some might have less than others in ELA and so on. So we're prepared to make sure that they are qualifying all of those, and that comes with close working with the leadership that's here.
Okay, I'll pass it off to
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sandman. I just have a couple questions for you. I'll start just understanding. I think it was raised to you all, and perhaps you didn't have an opportunity to respond to the issue or observation that your university is currently not accredited. Is that the case?
I wouldn't characterize it like that. We actually, as a new innovator and a new entrant to the higher education space, back in 21, we got our first license by the Higher Education Licensure Commission here in DC. Little known fact, but new universities cannot start the accreditation process before they have actively enrolled students. So as soon as we got our first cohort of students, we engaged with the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, one of the most reputable accreditors in the country. Since then, we have actually completed their pre-application, application stage, and we achieved the coveted candidate and membership stage just in March of this year, which is one of the most accelerated pathways for any institution going into the process. And because of that, and because we are a nonprofit university, the Department of Education, FSA, and other federal structures must treat the university, because it's now a member of Middle States, even though it's in the candidate phase, must treat it as accredited because it's in a special accreditation status that is called pre-accreditation.
You said pre-accreditation?
We are in pre-accreditation. We only have the self-study part of the cycle to complete.
Okay.
This is completed. Obviously, we're looking at the accreditation decision being favorable. That would apply retroactively to the date of candidacy, which was March 13th of this year. So even our first graduating class of students ideally has the ability to say in the future that they got a diploma from an accredited university. It's a little kind of complicated because of the regulatory steps and all of that, but you and your legal staff can check on all of this. And we also are always happy to connect you with the Middle States liaison that we work with and with the president there, who can confirm all of this.
Okay, so is that, so the anticipation is that you will be accredited. Is that why you made the statement that essentially when students, or if you were to open the public charter high school, that the students would have credit that would be transferable. That's operating under the assumption that you would be accredited. Is that correct?
It's not a yes or no answer. Let me dispel another common myth. Like accreditation does not guarantee transfer of college credit.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in this country, there is no national clearinghouse for credit. So even if you go from Harvard to Stanford, the receiving institution would always say, I want to see your transcript, I want to see the syllabi, I want to see your attendance record and grades, and then they're going to make a decision on transferability. What is really helping kind of our legitimacy and credibility and confidence for the future is that we actually now have the membership to middle states, even though it's in candidate state. In candidate phase, it is a reflection of 3 years of sustained and consistent quality and adherence to all of their standards for accreditation, and they have 7. And all of their affiliates, requirements for affiliation, and all federal and state laws. So that is where we are today. Accreditation does not guarantee transfer of credit, but it certainly helps on a reputational level.
Okay, so let me ask you a question a different way. I'm sorry, did I cut someone off?
Sorry, just one sentence to add. We have recently heard from a Virginia university that because we are a candidate for accreditation, our credits will be transferable to them. So we can point to a specific example that confirms what the president just said.
And I will add the final thing on this question, if you'll allow me. We also, for 2 years now, have been partners with Prince George's Community College, which actually included us in their small list of articulation transfer partners. So they work with University of Maryland, Bowie, Towson, and the other established universities, but they actually took the step to trust us because of our social mission and our shorter affordable program to include us in their list of 12 or so articulation transfer partners.
Okay, so when you all, because I thought I wrote it down, when you all said that the credits would be transferable, essentially you meant to other universities that you're already partnering with or that you plan to partner with that will accept the credits. Is that what you meant? Just for clarification purposes.
Quite complicated. Thank you for the opportunity to explain. No university, and I have worked at Georgetown and Maryland, and there's no, even when you transfer from Georgetown to Iowa State, which is a case that I helped with a specific student, they do not transfer automatically. And no matter the accreditation of the university. So it's about matching the courses, matching the requirements for the major. The point we're trying to make is that nothing about new university by default precludes transfer of credits. And we already have confirmation because we are a candidate institution that we have confirmation from university that are saying, yes, the credits of your students would be transferable if they chose to do so. But some other university may say, no, we want our students to take our physics or our math or our statistics class, and this is what happens. So the most important thing out of this discussion should be that because we are a candidate for accreditation and because of the treatment that we receive as such, there shouldn't be any difference for the students, and we can say that for certain because we have already achieved that status in March.
I'd like to interject here. My fellow board members have asked a number of very clear questions, and frankly have gotten long, rambling answers not responsive to the question. Ms. Stanley Beatty's most recent question did not suggest for a minute that she believes that simply because a college is accredited, its credits automatically will transfer to any other college. You made that point very clearly previously. So I'd ask each of you to listen to the question and answer only the question asked. Ms. Stanley Beatty, did you have more?
I did, thank you. Vice Chair Salmon, I appreciate that. I'm going to pivot. I just have a couple questions about your financials. You mentioned your variable cost model as it relates to your occupancy expense. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And you specifically mentioned that perhaps we didn't understand it, or it was erroneously commented on, or perhaps not appropriately evaluated. Can you talk about your variable cost model and how that puts you in a position of advantage?
Certainly. So the variable cost model is proposed because there are a lot of synergies between the two proposed the two institutions in the proposed school. And there is no new building that will be required to be purchased because New University already has a great location, centrally located, that parents have told us that they find very convenient. So the proposed structure that is going to cost, as shown in our budget, much less than in total in other schools, is that the school is only going to contribute based on the number of students that are actually enrolled in the courses of the school. That means that if there is low enrollment, then there is a proportionate change in the amount that will be paid to the university for the space. If it was a standalone program, you have to sign a lease, you plan for 100 students, you don't get there, you still have to pay all of that money that you have signed up for the lease. The variable cost model means that the charter school would only be responsible in this in this proposed structure for costs based on the student number and not on fixed costs that are so difficult to manage when there's declining enrollment and when budgets are based on projections. So this is one, and it applies not just to the building, but to many other services which are explained and enumerated in the shared services agreement that is in the application. So on the building itself, there was a reference to the median cost, which is a bit surprising that just because we would be above the median or in the upper half of the distribution is somehow an issue. We checked against the budgets that are posted on the PCSB website of all the schools in DC for the past 2 fiscal years. And we do see, and we mentioned this in our response that was sent to you earlier tonight, that in 1 year, there's 13% of schools currently in DC that are within the range that we propose, and then in the next year, there are 14% of schools that are within that range. So what we propose is very much within what seems to be the norm, or certainly exists now. And also we want to point out that we are in a very safe, modern building with a lot of natural light. We are currently in one of our classrooms. And students love being here. We have students right outside our door, even at 7 p.m., because it's a welcoming, safe environment where they feel supported and they find a community. So that is also not reflected on the comment about cost. It is in the upper half, sure, but it also buys much higher quality, safety, that you can even witness today.
I understand. So thank you for that. Essentially, what you're saying is your university is absorbing the cost of the building, basically. I get it, and you're calling that variable cost. But that's where the absorption of the cost is coming from, is the university, and then the public charter school, the high school, benefits from the fact that the building is on the university's balance sheet. Is essentially what you're saying.
Very well said.
I got you. All right. My next question is with regards to the budget that you submitted. There was a comment that perhaps the budget wasn't complete. Specifically, there was an observation about your cash on hand and some other stuff. Is that also because of this cost structure where basically the university is fronting your cost, or why wasn't your budget complete?
No, so all of the information is there. So if I remember correctly, it's lines 2 to 94. And all of the information is there. Then there's 3 more lines in the Excel spreadsheet that duplicate and kind of rearrange some of the numbers that are already there, which were not completed to avoid duplication. And simply because the days of cash on hand pull from those 3 specific lines, they appear as a 0. You can calculate based on the information that's already there and see that we're within the ranges, both in the contingency scenario and the baseline. So I think this is where some of the confusion might have come from, but the numbers are there. It takes a couple of minutes to calculate the cash on hand.
Yeah. So thank you for that. What I would offer is that your team should have calculated it for the PCSB if that was the ask. Yeah, you shouldn't leave it to us to calculate it. You should have done that. And then my last question is about your $0 tuition paths to college piece of the program. Can you talk a little bit about that for me?
Certainly.
So the 0 tuition is from the students' and parents' perspective and their families. We certainly are very, very socially and mission driven, but we cannot just spend money without some offsetting revenue. So our generous offer is really predicated on assuming that the average profile of the students in the program is going to mirror that of students in the city today. Half of them, 49%, are considered at risk. Also, kind of our experience recruiting into the university, we already have 70% first-generation low-income students. 94% of our student body is Pell eligible, and half of our students come from families with income of less than $30,000 a year. I don't know how people manage to have a decent life on that kind of money, but we actually enrolled these students, which actually means that they're eligible for Title IV, Pell Grants, some supplemental assistance, and in the future, DC TAG and other assistance. So our last tuition-free year would not be completely it is completely tuition-free for the students, but we're hoping to receive some federal and state revenue for those students, just as part of the regular Pell Grant and federal, then Title IV and DC-specific programs.
That's helpful. Is your financial model reliant upon you receiving the federal subsidy? Is the model reliant on that?
Not at all. Actually, we haven't received, to this day, we haven't received a single federal or public dollar. And we are about to graduate our first cohort of students in June, in just 6 weeks. So we have proven that we can be very resourceful, very cost effective, and very resourceful, really, in making a dollar stretch as far as possible. And in the future, we certainly do not rely on that revenue. It's not kind of booked as guaranteed or anything like that.
Thank you. I'm finished, Chair Sandman.
I have a quick follow-up on Ms. Stanley Beatty's last question. Is the university eligible for Pell Grants and for DC TAG money prior to receiving accreditation from Middle States?
So because we are now pre-accredited, we are eligible for, we meet the requirements for Title IV, and we have already started the process to get added to the programs. It just takes time. Right now, we are dealing with a technical issue for the past month that the Department of Education is fixing. So we are in the process of getting on. We became eligible in March 2025 to start this process.
Are you saying that you are currently eligible simply by virtue of the membership status that you have even before you're accredited?
Correct.
Yeah, the FSA regulations specify that nonprofit pre-accredited universities like ours are eligible for Title IV funding.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. I thought you just said accredited, and you're not accredited yet.
So according to the Code of Federal
Let me
Regulations.
correct. I said pre-accredited.
Pre-accredited.
Yes.
Okay.
Pre-accredited is the candidate phase, which we just entered or earned in March.
And pre-accredited membership status qualifies you to receive Pell and DC tag money.
Well,
Is
we
that right?
qualify to receive Title IV funding. DC tag has a requirement for participation that the institution is eligible for Title IV. However, the Department of Education, FSA, and DC tag all have their onboarding process or the path to a participation agreement. So once an institution becomes eligible, it still takes potentially several months to a year. And that's what our CFO was describing, that the Department of Education started that process with us, but they are so understaffed and they have some technical issues that we cannot make a forward-looking statement when exactly we're going to start receiving federal money, but we're technically eligible for Title IV funding.
And if I just one sentence, and I will read it from the Code of Federal Regulation, Title 34, Section 600, institutions must be accredited, or in the case of a public or nonprofit institutions, pre-accredited by the nationally recognized accrediting agency to participate in Title IV programs. So I hope that definitively answers the question.
Thank you. Board Member Cruzy.
Thank you, Chair Salmon, and thank you, board members. I also want to thank the applicant group. It's quite a lot of work to submit any charter school application. It sounds like you've done your homework by looking at past applications. It's a lot of work, and what you've put into this, clearly you are deeply devoted to this, and you brought quite a bit of expertise to this. And this concept of mapping college courses to high school credits, it's really very interesting. These are two giant worlds that often we all talk about trying to bridge a gap between K-12 and higher ed, but actually doing it is quite complicated. And I understand that's part of the context of long answers, because not many have managed to figure out how to do that very well. They're talk to each other very well. And I think I also want to contextualize that this whole process is about de-risking. So we are a regulatory and oversight body, and one of our primary reasons for existence is to review applications to consider for this context. We need entrepreneurs to come in with bold and different ideas to bring about a future, make possible a future that our young people in the city deserve. And this is some of the most complicated work out there. These institutions, like I just said, don't always talk to each other well. Our concerns here, our job is to de-risk and recognize patterns that in the past haven't worked out as well. Even with all of the optimism and great expertise that folks come to us with and do a lot of homework to try to anticipate, these questions are coming from a place of seeing that sometimes work out and sometimes not work out quite so well. I have two questions with some of that in mind. First is, I've looked at the sample coursework, can't remember which page it's on right now. But also, it sounds like you understand that we've got a range of realities young people are coming to the 11th grade with. Board Member Davis mentioned some of this. A student may be coming, in fact, more than 2 years behind. We just went through a very long process to create a new accountability framework, and high school was some of the hardest, because by the time young people arrive at high school, they may have had a variety of experiences that make it really difficult for them to access the great coursework that high school may be able to offer. So it sounds like you've had some experience so far with New U and beyond New U. How do you anticipate, and what have you learned already about students who've come to you who actually may not be ready to do this mapped coursework yet? That's the first question. And then I have a second question about growth.
Well, I'll take the start of that anyway, and I can pass on to some others as well. The students that have come to us, at least that we know in the New University. They have faced various challenges, but we all know that they do have one main value, which is to achieve a college, achieve a bachelor's degree. What I anticipate is that, yes, we're going to have students that are going to have various issues coming forward. Like we say in the application in the education plan, we are ready for all those various challenges and all those variables that are there. We have seen it here also, but again, it's different because it's college. You are starting with a clean sheet. Yeah, we've made plans and we've made allocations for that in the education plan, and we've made it in also in the budgeting as well in terms of what teachers we can bring in and for what reasons at all. In terms of actual real life situations in terms of the students here, I don't think I have enough information on that. If anybody else wants to take on.
Well, I can mention a couple of things. Thank you for the question, Board Member Cruzy. We have students who come to us as young as 17 into the college program. So they would probably be very close to the population that we're looking to serve in 11th grade. So that's kind of one idiosyncrasy. We also have students who come with varied levels of preparedness. And I think some of your colleagues also mentioned that potential challenge. We actually say something that may sound a little boastful, but we say to prospective students and their parents, we solve problems you don't think you're going to have in college. Because we're a new entrant and because we started with a clean slate, we actually were able to thoughtfully design our policies and procedures. And a lot of those are targeting actually the success of students from varied levels of ability and backgrounds. One example that I'm going to give you is our team projects and team-based learning in the first year of college, which would actually be the 11th grade experience in the proposed charter school. So students actually go through their entire core curriculum, the required classes in that year, and they take classes and they have assignments, homework, and even exams in teams of 4 to 5 students, where the group actually, so they receive some peer support. Invariably, you have people who are better quantitatively or qualitatively. So they receive that peer support. On top of that, I said I'm going to give one example, but on top of that, we have a very high-touch support system. And we use extensive data with attendance and with other systems to actually identify early warning flags and act preemptively. But even with all of that, we still require our faculty to meet with each student one-on-one. So every student who's enrolled in the program, and by extension in the proposed early college program, will be meeting with a faculty member one-on-one every month. So we have kind of several mechanisms through which we can monitor, support, and guide the students who need the extra help. And those supports are, again, both peer provided and faculty provided. And of course, the dedicated support staff and coordinators will be there as well. Anything to add?
Yes, and I would like to summarize that our philosophy is co-remediation. So helping students to build or rebuild or acquire for the first time core skills such as reading, math, while they are taking the grade level curriculum. And this is a well-known strategy that maybe Matthew can speak to.
Certainly. My name is Matthew. Briefly, I'd just like to share that all the students at proposed charter school will have the individualized learning plan as we discussed. And that also includes students who are emergent multilingual learners. For example, in DC, about 11 to 12% of students are emergent multilingual learners at entry. And we have targeted instructional periods that are separate from the core curriculum classes. So we can ensure that trained EML specialists like myself are able to support those students, as well as comprehensive training for all content teachers working with the EML specialists to make sure that those students have special attention in the class without removing them from the core classes.
And finally, I'd say the dynamics of our small but very cohesive and supportive community We have it as our principles and our culture that we believe in collaboration, not in competition. So all of these dynamics are actually very nurturing and very supportive of student success for all students.
Thank you for that. It sounds very resource intensive. So let me make sure I understand this. This is a follow-up to the first question before I get to the second. This is a model that would not, where you intend to be able to apply whether or not you receive public funding? This is heavily philanthropically supported, and how long can that sustain if my read on that is correct?
If I may ask, are you inquiring about the university model?
It sounds, what you are describing is this model of the integrated early college. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, that's our proposed
plan, if the charter were to be approved.
Yes, so that actually would not be, I mean, the schools that participate in the early college program would be subject to the per pupil allocation, just like any other charter school in the district. Where we talk about Title IV and DC TAG money, it's for that additional year, should they choose to stay here. I mean, they can take their credits and go anywhere they want. We're not locking in anybody here, but should they decide to stay here for that final year, we are, of course, expecting and reasonably expecting, based on the profile of the student population that we have today, that there will be some federal and state allocations, which are there regardless of whether the student comes here or goes to another university.
Okay.
And to quickly also add and answer your question, it is absolutely resource intensive. And we emphasize the individual support, which of course takes time and expertise. But this is where our cost structure, the variable cost model, the fact that we are not building new buildings, but we are leasing, it allows us to save money on certain areas and devote them to actual student support and actual instruction, which is also a tenet that New University has been developing in its university model. And now we will propose to combine it with a high school, where the high school gets all of these benefits, and so much of the per pupil allocation will go to actually supporting the student rather than supporting heavy administration. This is where the shared services is so important.
Got it. Okay. Then my second question is, I understand from the website that there are ambitions to significantly grow New U to open 100 or more micro campuses in the next 7 years. That is ambitious, and new programs are labor intensive. There's a steep learning curve. That gives me some hesitation that the needs of these students would not be prioritized if there is an eye toward growth. And I'm also mindful of lessons learned from growth that has happened very quickly, that there are unanticipated challenges. We live in a world of quite a bit of uncertainty, and including we don't know about the stability of things like Pell Grants and Title IV in the future. So I think there's two parts here. One, let's assume that those are stable. Can you give us some reassurance on prioritization of these students with such an ambitious growth plan? And two, in a world of quite a bit of uncertainty, does this model predicate itself on that growth for this to happen?
Great question. So I'll take the liberty to take a stab at both of them. The first one is requiring a clarification that our strategic plan and our vision is to grow. We would be not good fiduciaries if we overextend ourselves at any point. So before we actually have things in a steady state and stable, I don't think that we're going to start running around opening new campuses. And also that is heavily predicated on the availability of funding. Should there be a charitable foundation that comes and says, here's $100 million, go and expand, certainly that would have no negative impact on our first location here in Washington, D.C., but it would enable us to get additional money, resources, additional people rather through this monies and resources to expand. But again, I can assure you that as somebody who has spent almost 30 years in various management roles in telecom and finance and education, we would be very careful to first serve the needs of this campus, get everything worked out. That's why we're also very cautious with enrollment projections. We don't want to bite more than we can chew. And then when we have everything working like clockwork, then the growth stage is available to us. But at this point, what you're seeing on the website is really our vision for the future, more than actual committed plan.
And to add on that, the proposed, so what you're referencing is a vision of New University. What we are proposing as the early college charter school in collaboration with the university is really done through several agreements, which are already ready, including the application. And importantly to your question, the shared services and whether the CFO is going to be shared or whether the head of school is going to be shared or whether any of these services will continue to be shared is going to be evaluated on an annual basis. If the school grows and needs more resources, then that will be set for the following year. So in that sense, this is a safeguard against overextending resources and ensuring that students actually get the support and the instruction that they need.
Thank you.
Thank you to the school representatives for joining us today to respond to our questions. And thank you, Bijan and team, for your work on this charter application. We'll next move on to a charter amendment request. For this item, I'd like to ask Starling Temp, Senior Specialist Accountability, School Performance Department, to introduce the request from Goodwill Excel Public Charter School.
Hello, my name is Starling Temp. I'm a senior specialist in the School Performance Department. Tonight, the board will hear from Goodwill Excel Public Charter School regarding its request to amend its charter goals and academic achievement expectations. The school proposes using the exact path assessment instead of the Scholastic Reading Inventory to measure students' reading progress. Goodwill Excel PCS seeks this change because the SRI has been discontinued. Further, the school proposes changing the high school ready Lexile baseline from 1,000 to 900 due to the shift to Exact Path. Edmentum, Exact Path's publisher, confirmed Lexile level 900 is the closest equivalent to the SRI's 1,000 Lexile level baseline. If approved, the changes will apply to school year 2025-26 and beyond. Representatives from the school are available to answer the board's questions.
Welcome, school representatives, Dr. Chelsea Kirk and Colleen Paletta. Would you like to present?
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Colleen Paletta. I am the Chief Integration Officer for the Goodwill Excel Center in Goodwill of Greater Washington, and I'm joined tonight by the Goodwill Excel Center's Executive Director, Dr. Chelsea Kirk. I'd like to just take a brief moment to walk you through how we identified Exact Path by Edmentum as the best assessment to replace the Scholastic Reading Inventory to measure reading progress for our Excel Center students. Led by Dr. Kirk, we assembled an internal working group of teachers and school leadership that focused on researching and testing different reading assessments. We reviewed 6 and tested 3 with our current and new students this past year. The team tested Exact Path, NWEA MAP, and read theory assessments. Our testing process included teaching training from the vendor on how to administer the assessments appropriately, pre and post testing of current and new students during enrollment, an analysis of the data by the internal working group, and outreach to other Excel centers throughout the country, there are 47 now, to gain feedback on the reading assessments they utilize. Guided by what has worked well in the last 9 years of operation, we identified criteria needed in a new assessment that led us to ExactPath. First, we wanted to utilize an assessment, if possible, that worked well with other Excel centers. ExactPath is actually recommended by other Excel centers and used by over half. Second, we needed flexible testing windows to match our 5 8-week terms throughout the school year. And the ExactPath assessment was flexible enough to allow us to set our own windows. Third, we wanted an assessment that could closely mirror the testing length of the Scholastic Reading Inventory that worked well with our students, which took about an hour. ExactPath does. Fourth, we wanted a learning platform that allowed students to practice skills needed for identified growth aligned to the assessment, which ExactPath does. And next, we wanted the assessment platform to use Lexiles to measure student reading levels as the SRI had done. And ExactPath does that like the SRI did for us. Finally, we wanted to ensure the platform navigation for data was user-friendly for both data uploads and student reports, as we are always analyzing and reviewing student data and obviously sharing it with the Public Charter School Board. And ExactPath does that. We are confident that this tool will allow us to continue the strong testing and reading program we've had in place for the last 9 years, and we welcome any questions that you might have about our work in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Fellow board members, do you have questions? Board Member Davis.
Thank you. And thank you, team, for your great work. I had an opportunity to visit Goodwill some time ago, and I just want to thank you for your excellent work. As a layperson, looking at the switch from SRI, it would appear that the lowering of the score from 1,000 to 900 would seem as if we're lowering standards in some way. Can you just walk us through how you determined that 900 is an appropriate score and that the rigor is aligned to the SRI rigor?
Sure. Hello, good evening, everyone. So a few things. One is when we switched the SRI, which was not by choice, just because of the retirement of the assessment, we really wanted to be compatible and look for what was compatible to the SRI Lexile score. And when we went to our other Excel centers who are using Edmentum or ExactPath by Edmentum, they were using the 900 level as similar cutoff to where SRI was. And then additionally, when we talked to the Edmentum team, they recommended the 900 level as an equivalent rating to where the 1,000 was on the SRI collection. And I will say that we have been collecting the data and we're seeing similar numbers of students test at the 900 level that we're testing at the 1,000 level on their incoming data from the SRI to the Edmentum ExactPath. So our intention was to stay at the high rigor and to stay at the same level and just use what we found to be recommended as the equivalent Lexile level.
So you also talked about the platform. Does the platform also provide you with curricular extensions?
Great question. Yes. So yes and yes. So it also provides us with a learning platform that students, so the class is taught, it's called Reading Foundation. So the students in this class also take our class taught by our reading teachers in addition to using the platform in part of their class so that they get used to the online learning platform and also can see question samples from the test. So Edmentum does offer an online learning platform that students use in class in addition to the curriculum that we have for our reading classes.
And my last question, sorry to nerd out a little bit, but does the platform then recommend books that the students can then say, well, you're reading here, this will be a great book for you, so forth and so on?
Yeah, exactly. And as a yes, and as a former humanities English teacher, yes. And I think that it also then provides students extension work they can do on their own for extra practice within the platform as well.
We lost you for a minute.
I know. I don't know if we froze or if you froze,
sorry.
but my answer, can you hear me now?
Oh, we didn't lose you,
Yeah,
but
I heard you. I'll answer it again. I was like, I don't know if I froze, but to answer your question, you can hear me now, Mr. Davis. Okay, cool. Is yes, it does produce that report on terms of if you're on this Lexile, here's some recommended reading, and it also provides extension activities that students can do on their own outside of class to practice their skills as well.
Board Member Cruzy?
Thank you for this. How familiar are students with this change, both to the platform and the 900 versus 1,000? Would there be confusion for them and perhaps from wherever they take their transcripts with that different scoring requirement?
Great questions. I'll also answer that. So I will say we've brought students along the way on our entire journey about the assessment trial. So they've actually given feedback on the assessments because they've been part of the beta tested groups. And so not because one of the pieces of context is, as you know, our school is 5 8-week terms. So not all students know the current goal that we have and had familiarity with the SRI. So for some students, this is the only test and assessment they know. And for the incoming students, they take this assessment with our math assessment to get placed into remediation math or reading courses. So it won't, it's more of a growth goal for our charter school goals, but then it really is about new students and incoming students taking the assessment to then place them into either core content classes or reading and math foundation classes. So to answer that question directly, I'll just say students understand that they're taking multiple assessments this year to help us find the best assessment replacement. And they're more focused on, am I growing in my Lexiles to grow out of reading foundations classes? And we've kept the same growth goal of 75 Lexile growth. And so that's more what they're focused on. Have I hit my 75 goals? 75 Lexile growth goal, and it's over 2 academic terms. So for some students, they will take this class twice because they don't hit their growth goal in one 8-week term. It takes them 16 weeks. And that's a carryover from the SRI, and what we saw really worked well, that you can't always grow 75 Lexiles in one 8-week term, and that takes some people 2 8-week terms.
Got it. Thank you.
Hello, board members. Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Kirk and Ms. Paletta, for joining us this evening, and thank you for your service.
thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
all.
listening and taking the time.
Happy to.
Yes, have a great
That
night.
concludes the public hearing portion of our agenda. We'll now move to the public meeting portion of our agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda for our public meeting?
I move to approve the April 28th, 2025 board meeting agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Secretary Adamafanian, can you call the roll?
Vice Chair Sandman,
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty,
Aye.
Board Member Cruzy,
Aye.
Board Member Davis.
Aye.
I am an aye, and Chair Wright is an aye by proxy.
Next on our agenda is a mystery caller notice of concern. I ask Tricia Francisco, Senior Specialist, School Equity and Effectiveness in the School Performance Department, to introduce the notice for KIPP DC Public Charter School.
Hello, my name is Tricia Francisco, and I am a senior specialist in the School Performance Department who leads DC PCSB's Mystery Caller Initiative. Under this initiative, which is part of DC PCSB's open enrollment policy, DC PCSB staff call all charter schools and ask questions about the enrollment process for a student with disabilities or an emerging multilingual learner. If a school gives an inappropriate answer, DC PCSB staff call again to determine if the possible violation was a one-off issue or indicative of a systemic problem. Schools that fail both rounds are eligible to receive a notice of concern. Tonight, staff recommend that the board issue a notice of concern to KIPP DC Public Charter School for failing the Mystery Caller Initiative. KIPP DC Grow Public Charter School did not answer the phone, demonstrating a barrier to enrollment. DC PCSB staff called the campus 11 times, receiving no answer upon each attempt. Further, DC PCSB staff could not leave a voicemail because the inbox was full. This is not the first time DC PCSB has been unable to reach KIPP DC Grow Public Charter School during the Mystery Caller Initiative. In school year 2021 to 2022, KIPP DC Grow Public Charter School was subject to a mystery caller notice of concern. When attempting follow-up calls to lift the notice of concern, DC PCSB staff could not reach the campus. DC PCSB had to call the campus 15 times before receiving the 4 responses needed to lift the notice of concern. DC PCSB staff will recommend that its board lift the notice of concern if the school responds appropriately to mystery calls over the next several weeks. Representatives from the school are here to answer your questions.
I'd like to invite representatives from the school to join us. Ashley Peel, Amy Drake, Dion Cooley.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm the principal, and so we take this matter very seriously, and we appreciate the Public Charter School Board's oversight to ensure equitable access to all DC families. We acknowledge and regret that the DC PCBS staff were unable to reach a live person and or leave a voicemail during the mystery caller initiative. During the call window, our front office experienced staff transitions and absences that disrupted our coverage model. Unfortunately, this resulted in calls being missed and the voicemail inbox reaching capacity without our awareness. We already retrained our front office staff to prioritize responsiveness, including protocols of answering and transferring calls. We've configured voicemail settings so that all voice messages are now automatically forwarded to my inbox for daily review and follow-up. And our team now conducts daily checks to ensure the voicemail inbox is not full and that the phones are actively monitored during business hours. We are committed to full compliance with open enrollment policy and to ensuring our school is always accessible to prospective families. We've built monitoring and accountability measures in our school operations to prevent this from happening again. We understand the importance of ensuring equitable access, and we are taking the necessary steps to rebuild trust in our enrollment process.
I'd like to lead off the questioning. This is outrageous. This has happened twice. First time, 15 times. Staff had to call the school to get through. This time, 11. You're given public money to provide a public service, and you're shutting down the public. It's hard for me to imagine that our staff's efforts to get through, resulting in 11 calls unanswered, with no ability to leave a voicemail, was the only time it happened, that you weren't hearing this from others too. This goes to basic organizational competence, your ability to run an organization that receives public funds. How did it come to this? I'm flabbergasted. And when people are calling, this is, particularly if people are calling about students with disabilities or emerging multilingual learners, they want to have a conversation. They don't want to send an email. They don't want to have a back and forth. They want to be able to talk to a live human being in real time about their student's situation. The ability to reach you by phone is very important to the service that you're expected to provide as a recipient of public funds. What is your reaction to this?
Hi, my name is Amy Drake. I'm the Managing Director of School Support and Service, and thank you for your question. As a regional team member, I want to assure you that we shared your same concerns when we got this data, and it is absolutely unacceptable. And that's why we've taken a lot of measures to ensure that something of this nature does not happen again. We've built daily voicemail and phone coverage checks into the school standard operating procedures. We've taken voicemails away and we're now forwarding them automatically right now, creating an immediate escalation route. And additionally, compliance audits are occurring quarterly at the moment to ensure that we're sustaining monitoring over time to work to really fix this and this one at this one school. So we're taking all of these efforts right now currently to try to make sure that we are addressing this immediately and daily to make sure that this does not happen again.
I want to register my reaction that a notice of concern under these circumstances is not sufficient. I'd like to request the staff periodically over the next 6 months to make additional mystery calls with no notice to the school, no advance warning that you're going to do it, except for this, what I'm telling you right now, that you need to be prepared to the fact that we're going to be checking on whether you have taken adequate steps to remedy this problem. I invite other board members to ask questions.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair Salmon. I echo your outrage. It is not enough to say that you didn't answer us from a mystery caller perspective. To Vice Chair Salmon's point, there are families that couldn't get through as well, and they don't have this board at this moment to voice their frustrations through. So I just want to be clear about that. The fact that we couldn't get through is one point. The fact that families couldn't get through is a completely different point. And again, they don't have the benefit of this particular forum to voice their frustrations. So I am deeply disturbed. I agree with your proposal, Vice Chair Salmon. I hope that we work that into the discussion tonight, or if there's a vote, into the vote. I also had a question for staff. I actually didn't necessarily like the fact that we pointed out proactively that we would lift the notice of concern over a certain period of time. I want to flesh that out more. What do you mean when you say over some period of time there's the opportunity to lift the notice of concern? This is so egregious that I don't think we needed to go into potentially lifting it. I don't think we're there.
So we were taking the process that we usually do when we give a notice of concern, which is we call the school again and see if they pass. This is the first instance that we've had to come across a situation like this, so I'm open to adjusting it. I do agree that just one call is not sufficient enough to say that they've passed. So this is something we can definitely edit, but typically the process is we call the school again to see if they give an appropriate answer. It's always been 3 times, and if they pass consecutive 3 times, then it gets lifted.
And if I can just jump in, Board Treasurer Stanley Beatty, as Tricia mentioned, what is listed in the proposal is our response, sort of how we implement the policy. I heard tonight that members of the board have a different request that we continue our engagement with the school, but that language references our current process, as Tricia named, which is to give the school an opportunity to meet our demands, and then we would lift that. In addition, we do have a practice of starting every school year with a blank slate for all of our notices of concern, meaning that a school wouldn't go into the next year with the notice of concern that we issued in the current school year.
Board Member Davis.
Yes, I have a just a clarifying question. Principal Peel, I believe you mentioned that it was the failure to answer the phone in a timely manner had to do with staff absences.
Had to do with coverage.
Okay, coverage. So, my question is kind of sometimes when, we're unable to answer the phone over an extended period of time, in this particular instance, 11 times, and it's due to coverage 11 times, that speaks to a systemic issue. And so, Ms. Drake, you had mentioned that you all put some systems and protocols in place, but my question is this a technical fix, or is there an adaptive problem, a deeper problem that needs to be addressed, and have you sufficiently, as a principal, Ms. Peel, do you feel like you all are addressing the root cause to this happening?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I do feel like it was technical. It was a technical error and systems error. So as I mentioned, we have put checks and balances in place to ensure that this doesn't happen again, because I agree with the tone and the nature. I want our families to know that they can access us and call us. Yes, so it is definitely technical, not adaptive.
And Ms. Drake, this provides an opportunity for you to kind of look at other schools. And so have you looked at other schools to ensure that this is something that will never happen at another campus?
Absolutely. At all 8 of our schools, we have started doing the same monitoring across all schools. We also have updated our system so we're able to transfer from the desk to cell phones, so that they're able to take office managers who answer the phones are often around buildings. So they're able to answer the phones when they're around the buildings, when principals are able to answer the phones as well, or other support staff members if an office manager were to be absent that day. So we've kind of approached this in a few different ways, making sure that we've answered the technical issues and we've updated those systems that felt a little antiquated. And then we've taken a bunch of different auditing measures and put them in place to make sure that we are doing our own mystery calls, our own audits from the regional level to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Because as Ms. Peel shared, that this is not acceptable. And we really cannot have this happen again.
Other questions from the board? I would like to make a motion different from the one that was proposed. I'd like to move that the board issue a notice of concern that will remain open for 6 months into the next school year. I think this situation is unique and warrants a difference from prior practice in light of the twice now that the school has failed to return a large number, failed to answer the phone on a significant number of occasions. You have heard, Starling, the concerns of the board about the magnitude of this problem. I'd like to ask the staff to make a number of calls over the next 6 months that you think is sufficient to address the board's concern and to satisfy yourselves that the problem appears to have been solved, and come back to us with a report on the number of calls you made and the results 6 months from now. Is there a second for that motion?
I will second.
Yes.
Vice Chair Salmon, I just want to clarify, as I shared earlier, our practice is that we normally start a school year without notice of concerns. I just want to clarify that you do want an exception in this case.
Yes, I appreciate you raising that. Yes, I think an exception is warranted under these circumstances. Thank you. Secretary Autumn-Afanian, can you call the roll, please?
Vice Chair Sandman,
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty,
Aye.
Board Member Crucy.
Aye.
Board Member Davis.
Aye.
I am an aye, and Chair Wright did not submit a proxy vote with this new amendment. Oh, she did? No?
Not with the amendment.
Not with the amendment. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. The motion passes. Tricia, thank you. I'm sorry I called you by the wrong name.
Thank you so much for having us. So we just wanted to say that we're committed to ensuring this problem is permanently fixed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, KIPP representatives. Next on our agenda, we have truancy notices of concern for multiple schools. I ask Kirsten James, Director of Accountability, School Performance Department, to introduce the proposal.
Good evening. My name is Kirsten James Floyd, and I'm a director in the School Performance Department. DCPCSB staff recommends the board vote to issue a notice of concern to 4 schools for surpassing the truancy threshold in DCPCSB's attendance and truancy policy. Under the attendance and truancy policy, a school may be subject to a notice of concern if it does not maintain a truancy rate at or below the truancy threshold that corresponds to its program type and grades served. DCPCSB staff reviewed attendance data from October 5th, 2024 through February 28th, 2025 and found the following. Achievement Preparatory Public Charter School had a truancy rate of 31.4%. Early Childhood Academy Public Charter School had a truancy rate of 34.7%. Ingenuity Preparatory Public Charter School had a truancy rate of 33.1%. These campuses surpassed the 30% threshold for traditional schools serving grades pre-K through 8. Cesar Chavez Public Charter School had a 39.7% truancy rate, exceeding the 35% threshold for traditional schools serving grades 9 through 12. Additionally, based on attendance data from October 5th, 2024 through March 31st, 2025, Cesar Chavez Public Charter School middle school grades had a 33.1% truancy rate, exceeding the 30% threshold for traditional schools serving grades pre-K to 8. Every school with a truancy rate exceeding its corresponding threshold was notified on March 17th and given the opportunity to review and confirm the accuracy of the underlying data. If schools notice that the data does not align with their records, we encourage them to reach out to OSSI to explore the source of the discrepancy and to keep DCPCSB staff informed of any updates or findings. Schools submit attendance data directly to OSSI from their student information systems, and DCPCSB receives attendance data in a nightly feed from OSSI. DCPCSB recognizes that student attendance records may change during the school year for several reasons, including data entry corrections, a student turning 18 and aging out of the truancy definition, or excused absences, documentation being submitted or recorded after the fact. DCPCSB's data team calculated truancy rates for October 5th, 2024 through February 28th, 2025, initially on March 10th, again on March 31st, and subsequently on April 4th, 7th, 15th, 23rd, and today, April 28th, to ensure the recommendation reflects the most current data. 3 schools identified issues, resolved them, and their updated truancy rates fell below the threshold. Achievement Prep PCS reported a data entry issue that likely impacted their truancy rate, and Cesar Chavez PCS identified discrepancies in underlying student level data. The remaining schools either confirmed the truancy rates or did not raise concerns about the reported truancy rate. If approved, DCPCSB staff will recommend the board lift the notice of concern for any school demonstrating attendance improvement as described in the policy. Schools are encouraged to continue scrutinizing their data, potentially correcting underlying enrollment and attendance records with OSSI. If such corrections result in an updated truancy rate that does not surpass the relevant truancy threshold, then DCPCSB staff will ask the board to rescind the notice of concern. Representatives from the schools are present and prepared to answer your questions. We'll ask the schools to join us in 2 groups. First, we'll promote the representatives from Achievement Preparatory Public Charter School, Early Childhood Academy Public Charter School, and Ingenuity Preparatory Public Charter School. After their conversations, we will promote representatives from Cesar Chavez Public Charter School to engage with the board.
Thank you, Kirsten. We'll wait for all of the school representatives to join us. Fellow board members, do you have questions?
Hi, yes, thank you. Good evening, leaders. Quick question. I just wanted to make sure that I heard correctly. For Achievement Prep, you were notified, Kirsten, that there was an issue with the data? Okay, so they are no longer on the list of concern?
They are still, but they did, they did inform us that there was a data entry issue, and they were working to resolve it. Their updated numbers, or their truancy rate did update periodically throughout the time that we rerun the numbers, but at this time they still exceed the threshold.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. That was actually my question. Thank you.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Thank you, Vice Chair Salmon. Kirsten, I actually have a question for you. I just want to understand our data validation. So the truancy rates come to us from OSSI. Is that how it works? Or explain to me where the truancy data comes in, and then any independent validation that we perform prior to conversations with the LEA.
So in terms of data ownership, schools submit attendance data to OSSI. So it's enrollment dates, present or not, excused or not, those kinds of things via their student information system. And we get attendance data directly from OSSI. And so that data tells us for enrolled students, whether or not they're still enrolled. It also tells us if they were present or absent. It tells us if the absence was excused or not. Our data team calculates truancy based on some specific rules. The student has to have turned 5 before September 30th. They have to have been enrolled at the school for 10 days, not necessarily consecutive, but 10 total. And they have to have, and if they have transferred into a school from another school, their absences don't follow them to the new school. So at a new school, you have a fresh start. And if you were truant at another school and you were enrolled for 10 days, your truancy will still be reflected in their records. Does that make sense? So, yes, schools are monitoring their data via their own student information system. They are updating and sending their data directly to OSSI, and we get it from OSSI. So there's usually about a day lag for any updates that we have, which was part of the reason that we ran it today, so that everything through last Friday could be reflected. When we run the numbers and see that a school has surpassed the threshold, that initial communication to a school just says, hey, this is what we're seeing. Can you check it out and tell us if it's right or not? We also provide the rate, we provide the, and a link to student level records so that they can see every single student that we are showing as truant. And then they can either say, yep, there it is, that's right. Or they will say, wait a minute, something's not right. This is not what we're seeing. And like I said, some schools, they look at the data, they recognize almost immediately kind of what the issue is or what the discrepancy is, and they resolve it. And when we run the numbers again, it shows, a new truancy rate. And other times that it doesn't change. So yes, they have an opportunity to confirm, validate data that is certified with OSSI. So OSSI has certification dates throughout the year where they certify different data points, and OSSI's policies around making adjustments to underlying data are their own. So after certification dates, schools do usually have appeal windows. But once schools have certified specific data with OSSI, it is kind of locked in. So if it is beyond the opportunity for schools to change it, it will always be reflected in the data that we get directly from OSSI.
That's actually really helpful. Thank you for that. What I was trying to understand is if there is a discrepancy, is the sort of chain of communication back to OSSI to rectify it and then to us. And it sounds like that is the case, but it also sounds like in that process, we are helpful in providing them with information on the truancy. Like when you said the student level data, that has to be tremendously helpful so that the school can actually cross check. So thank you.
Secretary Adamafanian, did you have another question?
I do, yes. So this is to any of the school teams here. I mean, this is really a challenging issue for sure. When kids are not in school, they're not learning, all of which I know you all are aware. Would love to just hear a little bit about how you're leveraging city partners to support your efforts in getting children into the building. And any school can answer that.
Hi, my name is Altisha Irvin, and I am with Ingenuity Prep. I'm the Chief of Student Support and Wellness, and we are utilizing some community partnerships. We work with the DC Charter Alliance, and we have regular student support meetings where we discuss best practices. We also get a better idea as to resources that are available in the city that we can use and refer our families to. We work with the Deputy Mayor's office as well, where again, we find out what resources are available to our families and to the school. And one of the, I guess, results of those partnerships is for us was the DC School Connect, where they start registration very early on. Well, they started at the end of the school year for the previous school year, so it's actually open now. So prior to that partnership, we were missing out on the window to register our families with DC School Connect because we were waiting to the start of the school year. So through some of those partnerships, we've kind of just learned more about just resources available and then the actual timeline for us to access those resources.
Good evening. I'm Wendy Edwards. I'm the Executive Director at Early Childhood Academy, PCS. We have young children pre-K to third grade. And so for us, the support that is needed is parental support because our children obviously cannot walk to school themselves. So we utilize the services of MBI Health because we find that we have many parents who are suffering with their own trauma, their own mental health issues that prohibit them from actually preparing their child for school, walking their child to school, and oftentimes they just don't bring them. We do have that full-time service, a full-time therapist who does reach out to those families and try to provide support. We also have used the support of Empower K-12 that has worked with our school in helping us to identify new strategies to promote increased attendance and to address those issues that we've identified at our school, including parents who don't necessarily value school because of their own perhaps negative experiences in school, parents who don't always understand the importance of even a pre-K 3 child coming to school every day. There are a lot of misunderstandings, I think, with why this is valuable, why a child needs to be in school every day. And so we do try to reach out to our parents as best we can to make sure they have a clear understanding of how this is impacting their child for a lifetime.
Thank you. I just want to follow up before the next school answer on that question. What has the collaboration or connection been to other schools similarly situated like yours, the Apple Trees of the world, Cedar Tree? Like, what has the connection or communication been with them? And I completely hear you. Former school leader, I get it. I'm with you. I understand. But understanding that there are other folks, your other colleagues have seemed to figure this out across multiple campuses, across multiple parts of the city. What has the communication been like with them?
So we've had lots of communication, especially through the DC Charter School Alliance. They've had many meetings about this issue of poor school attendance and truancy. We actually have a partnership with Appletree for our pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 programs. So we have many conversations, but what I have found is that a lot of schools are dealing with the same type of concern at this point. That many of the school leaders that I've spoken with are actually at a point where their truancy level is much increased from years past. Their absenteeism is much increased from years past. This is our 20th year. We're about to go through our 20-year review. We have never had an issue with truancy until this year. Appletree is a little different because they only serve pre-K 3 and pre-K 4, so truancy would not be a factor for that school.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Dr. Lewis. I'm the Executive Director for Achievement Prep. Very similarly, I believe Ms. Irvin spoke to DC Connect, also a partnership that we share. Ms. Edwards mentioned Empower K-12, of which we are a part, and having similar conversations with the Alliance, et cetera. I was actually going to mention our partnership with Appletree, who does serve our pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 scholars. Those are conversations that are happening as well, and creating a more robust attendance team than the ones that we have had previously has also been a major shift in recent time. I do share the sentiment of Ms. Edwards. It's been 17 years and we've not been before you for this reason. I am quite angered by it and disappointed in it. It is both impermissible and unacceptable. But even though it is just over 30%, it is still 32% of our scholars, and we take deep responsibility around that. So yes, we will continue to work with the partners that have been mentioned here, and certainly open to others that may be recommended. But I do believe that aside from the data tracking piece for Achievement Prep, specifically thinking about our attendance team, fully incorporating our school counselor and others to really be able to support the greater needs of our scholars. And I will say for Appletree and the pre-K team specifically, really communicating rationale and investment in persistence and understanding the start of the educational experience and career for our children. It actually does begin at 3 years old. We want our families bringing scholars. I know that it is non-compulsory. We understand that. I have my own personal feelings around that. However, once the school doors are open, we recognize the importance of having that and having strong programming that our families value enough to bring them every day as well.
Thank you.
Do other board members have questions? I'd like to thank you all for your presentations. I want to reiterate a point that we made. I'm sorry, Board Member Davis.
So I just have a general question, like for the school leaders, what was it like going through the validation process, validating the information? Did you, was it difficult? What did that process involve?
Clarifying question, are you speaking about the validation experience that Kirsten
Yes.
shared earlier?
Yes.
I will say I was appreciative of the conversations that I was able to have with Kirsten, as well as our program with our connection with EdOps. We have been in, because of our specific data issue, we were back and forth. And so I appreciated the accessibility of the staff to assist us with that. And I think I spoke to my sentiments earlier about why we are here. And so just personally quite disappointed. But aside from that, the actual process itself was fine in terms of the communication. I did name very specifically, though, that the communication around the dates and time windows were concerning for me. It seemed like there was miscommunication around that from one email to another, but we were able to work through those inconsistencies.
Yeah, speaking on behalf of Ingenuity Prep, we, I think, had a similar experience, it sounds like, to Dr. Lewis, which was no concerns on the validating of the data side of it. We were able to work, they sent along to us easy process of communication. We had a couple things around the dates, but anytime that came up, it was an easy and quick resolution. And I would guess I sent 5 to 6 emails with some clarifying questions, both to prepare for this and otherwise, to Kirsten, and she was super responsive on all of those. So it was a good and comfortable process for us. So fairly easy on our end.
Yes, I think one thing that this process has helped us to do is to assess our internal problems. What we found was, as we did a deeper dive into the process of coding students for their absences, what we found was there were students who were coded as absent unexcused who actually should have been coded as absent excused. And that's something that we weren't aware of, even though we've had many trainings with our teaching staff on how to correctly code children as present, unexcused, the different codes that we now use since the pandemic. That was a huge internal problem that we discovered that we were not aware of. And so that did help us at least correct that.
Secretary Autumn-Afanian, did you have another question?
Yes, my final question, this is actually going to around the communication with your school's board. Just wanting to understand, and each school can take this, how you engage your school's board with this truancy information and just school climate data in general.
I don't mind beginning. Thank you for the question. Our board is strategically and very much so involved in our attendance data as a whole, as well as school climate, both from a committee perspective and then, of course, for the broader board. I am in constant communication with our board chair. I apologize. Keeping the lights on. With our board chair. Through these processes. Our latest communication was specifically looking at our truancy numbers in direct correspondence with our MAP scores to be able to provide that level of communication to our families in a very different way, and thinking about how we do that year long next year. So our board has been quite involved in these processes, like I said, from the attendance perspective, but also school climate as well.
Thank you. Any other schools?
Yes, well, our board is well aware of our issues with truancy and, attendance, in-seat attendance as well. My board president was copied on the email that Kirsten sent, so he received it at the same time I did. And I also have kept him in the loop in my follow-up conversations with Kirsten. We actually have a board meeting scheduled for next week on which this will be one of the topics.
Yeah, I'll jump in here for Ingenuity Prep. This has been a big priority for us for years, and saying that and knowing where our data is. So this isn't a excuse for where our data is. Clearly, we're not doing a good enough job on it, but it's been a priority for us, and especially for our board this year. So we actually, on the call, one of my board members, the chair of our Mission and Academics Committee, Dalia Dean Allen, is here to sort of speak to a little bit of the connection between leadership to our board and how that's shown up in the committee and the board this year. So I'll turn it over to Dalia.
I'm Dalia Dean Allen. I just want to say this has been a very regular topic for our committee. We actually did an attendance deep dive earlier in November. And we regularly review the data, work very closely with both Will and Altisha as we were monitoring, and kind of also use this as an opportunity to go even deeper and kind of really look at the different interventions we were or were not doing and how we needed to shift course over the course of the year. So I would just say this is very much on the radar in regular communication and regularly review the data at each of our committee meetings.
And thank you.
We had a number of truancy notices of concern last month, and a number of board members noted that it's very late in the year now to be dealing with this problem. The harm has been done. And we expressed our desire that schools monitor attendance and truancy starting early in the school year and frequently thereafter, and intervene early and often once you begin to see a problem, so that we don't arrive at the end of the year and see numbers like this. But I am persuaded by your presentations, you get it, and you're working hard at it. And we thank you for that. I'd now like to invite representatives from Cesar Chavez Public Charter School to join us and answer any questions the board may have about its program, which serves grades 6 through 12.
Good evening, everyone. I'm trying to. Okay, so the video is disabled by the host. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sanjay Mitchell. I'm the executive director here at Cesar Chavez Public Charter School. We have a PowerPoint presentation. Are we allowed to share that, or do you just want us to just talk through?
I believe you may share it. You need to be enabled to share.
Thank you. Can everyone see my screen?
We can see it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so good evening again. My name is Sanjay Mitchell. I'm the executive director for Cesar Chavez Public School. I'm pleased to be joined by our principal, Dr. Joshua Jackson, who will present with me. I'm also happy to introduce our board chairs, Mr. John Noble and Ms. Frances Whalen, Frances Whalen is a parent of an alumna and also a current Chavez scholar and one of our board chairs. As Chair Wright shared in other board meetings and other conversations, the Public Charter School Board grants us a charter to educate the children of the District of Columbia, and that is our primary duty. A fundamental part of this duty is ensuring that our scholars attend school every day, and while we have a robust practice of capturing and monitoring attendance on a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis, we have some growing to do as a school community to align our duty and our charge with our practice and our attendance oversight. As a man of alpha and an educator, I know there are no excuses for why we are here today. And as the ED, I take full responsibility. This notice does not reflect our deep commitment to ensuring that our scholars are present and feel safe and welcomed in our building daily. We noticed an uptick in truancy numbers around the holiday season and into the new year. We implemented additional interventions, but we know there is more work to do, and we're committed to doing that work. I'll turn it over to Dr. Jackson to speak on some of those interventions and partnerships, and I'll close out with how we plan to continue improving our attendance going forward. Dr. Jackson?
Sorry, I'm also playing daddy with the 2-year-old as a single dad, so I apologize. She wants to come and sit in the seat. So thank you, Mr. Mitchell. As he said, I'm Dr. Jackson, the principal of Cesar Chavez. And at Chavez, we are committed to combating chronic absenteeism and truancy, and we know we have not done enough. But I just want to share some of the things that we do in order to do it. So at the tier 1 level, we definitely believe in building a strong culture where attendance is a priority. We celebrate student success with things like pop-up parties and field trips, raffles, public recognition at our academic and cultural events. And as Mr. Mitchell noted, we monitor attendance data daily. And what we've done this year was we've done a lot of automation of our systems where we receive instant alerts through Dean's List when kids get 3 absences, whether unexcused or excused. And we prompt swift action with that with our attendance team to offer support to our families, not judgment. I'm sorry. At the 7 absence level, we intensify our interventions and we ensure that every scholar and family is connected to the right resources, whether that's transportation through DC Connect or special education services or providing mental health supports or whatever to our students or addressing whatever safety concerns that families may have. We persistently meet with families to understand and break down the barriers to their daily attendance each and every single day. And even as we address the individual challenges, we don't lose sight on our tier 1, where we continue to try to work hard to build a school community where showing up is celebrated and expected. You can go to the next slide, Mr. Mitchell. We function as a community school in many ways. And so one of the things that we've done is really tap into our community. And I really want to thank Jasmine Benab from the Office of the Deputy Mayor's Office for Safety and Justice, whose tireless work has strengthened our partnership with Safe Passage and other partners like MPD. And we've started to see some fruits from that labor as we are getting reports from families that there is increased feelings of safety around the school because of the increased coverage. And also to Nicole Travers, who's helped us champion additional resources for our attendance efforts. Definitely a heartfelt gratitude to the Mayfair community for embracing our students and coming in, mentoring them, speaking with them, and reinforcing the importance of being in school each and every single day. And we recognize that there's still a lot of work for us to do in strengthening our systems and deepening our family support and creating more meaningful opportunities for family engagement. But despite these efforts, we know that we have not done enough. But we believe that by continuing to build those community partnerships and creating a community where every kid feels safe, known, and loved, that we can combat this challenge. Back to you, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. To close it out, we surveyed our scholars and families to learn more about the challenges faced with attendance. We have explored and planned to expand upon several strategies specifically designed to address those challenges throughout this year and into the next. As you see, as Dr. Jackson named, safety around our school and the perception of safety around our school is one of the challenge that was identified by our families. Health challenges too. There are several of our families who are still struggling post the pandemic and trying to come to terms with their mental health illness, as well as physical health challenges and also some logistical challenges. So along with continuing to ensure that we bolster up our partnership with Safe Passage program, continue to work with MPD and our SROs, we're going to budget for more wraparound services for students to support our attendance and mental health challenges, partner more efficiently with the Department of Behavioral Health. On the logistical side, we have purchased Power School Attendance and Intervention Model to complement the work that our Dean's List program is doing. We're aligning our calendar more closely with DCPS. We noticed also when we did our day-to-day that some of our attendance drops happen when DCPS schools are out. And we know that our families cross, in a household, there are students who are DCPS and Chavez students, so we want to make sure that there's full alignment there. Adjust our academic offering to include more passion projects and passion electives for our students, and budget additional funding to enhance our current attendance processes, stipend positions for home visits. We're a community school, so several of our students and several of our families are all connected with each other. So if we can stipend a family member who has a capacity and time to really come out and drive home and drive the importance of coming to school, we're able to support in that way. And also helping our families understand the importance of attendance, and also importantly, in elevating student voice in the conversation around how we continue to address our attendance challenges. Part of it is that our families really didn't understand what the difference is between truant and chronic absences and in-seat attendance, just making sure that we are doing a better job of informing them and guiding them through that process so they understand and know and value the importance of attendance every day. So I'll stop sharing here for any questions. And I have with me, as I named Francis and John, our board chairs on deck.
Thank you for your presentations. Fellow board members, do you have questions for Cesar Chavez?
Yes, thank you all for your thorough presentation. My question is to board members: how have you all been engaged in the reviewing of this data and just school climate data overall?
I can start, then Francis, feel free to jump in. So we've been obviously working with Mr. Mitchell and his team, in responding to the notice. And as well, kind of understanding some of the data discrepancies that have been named earlier, and working through those and understanding, exactly where that's coming from and tightening up that entire process. But, I think as was mentioned earlier, we certainly understand concerns around the timing here, right? And by the time we're at this point in the school year, there's already been a significant amount of time that's passed. So I really do applaud Mr. Mitchell and his team for looking at a number of different types of strategies to address this going forward, right? That includes perception of safety around the neighborhood. That includes making sure that the kids feel safe getting to school. That's number one. And then developing programming where students want to be there for, particular extracurricular activities that they might really enjoy. I think that ties into a lot of different strategic efforts that we're taking as an institution in general to drive engagement, drive enrollment. I think those things all tie together. So we all recognize that if someone's not in the building, they're not getting an education, and how important that is. And we're certainly right there with them, studying the results of this and making sure that we're doing whatever we can to help implement these new initiatives.
Good evening, board. My name is Frances Whalen. So as Mr. Mitchell stated, not only am I a board chair, but I'm also a parent. And the one thing that I will say is that this is not the first time of having this conversation. This conversation has been a continuing conversation that the schools had, and looking for ways to have resources to help not just our scholars be achieve, but also for the parents, because as Mr. Mitchell stated, we know that there are different circumstances in the community and in the households. So we applaud Mr. Mitchell and his leadership, including Dr. Jackson, for what they're doing. Not only that, but there is an executive committee meeting that we have every month. We have a couple every month. And we also have the academic committee meeting every month that we are talking about this. This is a bullet point that we're continuing to hit on to try to get the resources in, to try to change the numbers. So this is, as one school previously said, it's a disappointment because we know we can do better. But just making sure that we're getting that encouragement out to the students as well as their families about the importance of coming to school, how important it is for you to be there on time to make sure your attendance is accounted for correctly, and also being there to get your education overall.
Thank you.
Any other board members have questions? Thanks to all of the school representatives for being here today to answer our questions. And thank you, Kirsten, for your work to monitor compliance with our attendance and truancy policy. Fellow board members, I'll now entertain a motion on the truancy notices of concern. But first, I'll ask whether any board member would like to state a recusal for the record or request that any school be pulled out for a standalone vote.
According to proxy, Chair Wright will be abstaining from a vote for achievement prep. Yeah, I think for this current list. Yeah.
Thank you. With that abstention or recusal, is there a motion?
I move to issue notices of concern to Achievement Prep, PCS, Cesar Chavez, PCS, Early Childhood, PCS, and Ingenuity Prep, PCS, for surpassing the truancy threshold in DC PCSB's attendance and truancy policy.
Second.
Secretary Adamafanian, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Sandman.
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Aye.
Board Member Crucy.
Aye.
Board Member Davis.
Aye.
I am an aye, and I've noted Chair Wright's an aye for all of the other schools with the abstention for achievement prep recording.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is a discussion item, the School Finance Monthly Report. For that, I'll ask Will Henderson, Chief Operating Officer, to report to us. Welcome.
There we go. Treasurer Stanley Beatty, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. My name is Carissa Stanley Beatty, and I'm treasurer of the DC Public Charter School Board. DC PCSB is responsible for overseeing the financial health of every public charter school and LEA. Last month, we strengthened our commitment to transparency to schools and the sector by creating a standing financial oversight item on our monthly board meeting agenda. During this portion of the meeting, staff will share updates on financial oversight activities, including updates to the financial monitoring list, new citations of fiscal concern, and notable updates to ongoing financial corrective action plans, or what we call FCAPs. As appropriate, staff may also use this time to offer deeper insights into our work for full transparency. While we've historically included financial information in our consent calendar, this standing agenda item creates space for board discussion, increases public visibility, and it allows for questions and clarification. I'll now turn it over to Will Henderson, our Chief Operating Officer.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Will Henderson, Chief Operating Officer here at DC PCSB. The Finance Committee met on April 21st, 2025, and prepared a memo for the board for discussion this evening containing the following content. The committee discussed the financial status of our schools on the monitoring list, those that are subjected to an FCAP, and those that have received a citation of fiscal concern since the March 17 board meeting. The financial monitoring list is our first step to track schools showing financial instability. We place schools on this list for factors such as low cash reserves, poor cash flow margins, high debt ratios, enrollment decreases, or other financial concerns. We may issue FCAPs or financial corrective action plans to schools when they meet certain criteria, including below floor key financial indicators, financial weaknesses, or continuing noncompliance. We designed the FCAP requirements to clearly provide a plan for the school that would return it to satisfactory financial health and compliance. On our website and in the board book, you'll find one document listing LEAs with FCAPs and those on the financial monitoring list. Since March 17, we have added Statesman College Preparatory Academy for Boys Public Charter School to the financial monitoring list. Statesman College Prep Academy is being added to the financial monitoring list, and we want to note that all key financial indicators for the 6 months ending December 31, 24 have all been exceeded by this LEA. It is being added to the monitoring list because they're currently operating under an expired sublease agreement with their landlord. The LEA shares that negotiations are ongoing, albeit delayed. At this time, despite its otherwise healthy financial indicators, PCSB intends to keep this LEA on the financial monitoring list until a resolution with their sublease has been arrived. Once the sublease renewal agreement is executed, DC PCSB intends to remove the LEA from the financial monitoring list unless, of course, we become aware of additional concerns. There are 13 LEAs currently on our financial monitoring list, 2 of which are on an FCAP. Those LEAs are as follows. Capital Village, PCS, added on March 2023, which is also under an FCAP since October 24. I want to note that Capital Village failed to meet their March end monthly FCAP target. They are otherwise in compliance with the other portions of their FCAP. In response to their failure to meet this monthly target, we have issued a citation of fiscal concern, which I'll speak to you shortly in the next section of the agenda. Community College Prep Academy, PCS, added in January of 25. DC Wildflower, added in January of 25. Digital Pioneers Academy, added in December 24. Girls Global Academy, added in December 24. IDEA PCS, added in July of 23. KIP DC, added in November of 22. KIP DC is also under an FCAP since November 2022, and KIP continues to be in full compliance with their FCAP. Learn DC PCS, added in March of 23. Lee Montessori PCS, added in November 23. Mary McLeod Bethune Day Academy PCS, added in December 24. Social Justice Public Charter School, added in December 24. St. Coletta Special Education PCS, added in February of 24. And Statesman's College Preparatory Academy for Boys, added in April of 25. We also want to note that we intend to bring to the board 2 FCAP proposals, one for Girls Global Academy and one for Mary McLeod Bethune in the May meeting. Beginning in January of 25, we launched a new financial oversight tool that we call a citation of fiscal concern. This was in response to requests from DC Council and the public to elevate our transparency and more swiftly report to the public financial concerns about our LEAs. We may issue these citations to schools for various reasons, including such as material weaknesses and significant deficiencies, significant variances from budget, inaccurate, incomplete, misleading, excessively late, or repeated late submissions, and or cases of fraud or theft. As a reminder, citations of fiscal concern are a new tool that PCSB is using to identify and highlight financial issues our LEAs are facing. Citations may be used in conjunction with an FCAP for a school that is on our financial monitoring list to further elevate the scrutiny that these processes invite. But citations of fiscal concern can also be used outside of that traditional process to identify challenges incurred by an otherwise financially healthy school. In both instances, we monitor the school's remediation actions to help deter continued or repeated instances and improve the school's financial health. Today, we are reporting the issuance of one citation of fiscal concern, and that is the Capitol Village Public Charter School for failure to meet its March 31 monthly FCAP target. Based on the revised FY25 forecast submitted on April 8, the LEA reflected 30 days of cash on hand as of March 31, 25. This is 5 days below the 35-day FCAP minimum requirement as of that date. The primary reason for this is that the LEA incurred approximately $145,000 more in personnel salaries and benefits and incurred significantly more contracted instruction fees than were budgeted. At the April 21, 2025 Finance Committee meeting, after the April 14, 2025 issuance of the citation of fiscal concern to the LEA, DC PCSB staff reported that the additional personnel salaries and benefits resulted primarily from the LEA's failure to reduce staff as agreed upon in the FCAP proposal approved by the DC PCSB board on October 28, 2024. We have published and will update on our website in the Transparency Hub and a cumulative list of citations of fiscal concern after our board meetings. Information is also available in the board book materials for tonight's meeting. Thank you. This concludes the report on financial oversight, and I welcome questions from our board members.
Treasurer Stanley Beating.
Thank you, Will. Thank you for that report. And I want to thank you and your team for all the hard work that you've been doing with regards to financial oversight of our LEAs. I want to just talk a bit about Capitol Village. As you know, the board recently voted to continue the charter of Capitol Village Public Charter School. At that time, they were on an FCAP. And so I think it may make sense and benefit the broader conversation for you to talk about the use of an FCAP when an LEA goes on an FCAP, and the fact that essentially that FCAP is entered into at a certain period of time and it has a duration. And that duration can be during the charter school's review, it can be after, but those targets and metrics and thresholds that are set and discussed as it relates to that FCAP are alive and, as I almost call it, a living document even through a review.
Thanks. That's a helpful question, Treasurer Stanley Beatty. Yes, so the review process and the financial corrective action plan are two distinct processes. The review process is a look back in time. And if you'll remember about Capitol Village specifically, the third section of the report speaks to the school's financial health. And that's with all of our reports. In particular for Capitol Village, we spoke to the existence and importance of ongoing progress on and success within Capitol Village's FCAP in particular. The FCAP, in contrast to the review process, isn't a look back in time alone. It is live. It speaks to what's happening right now in real time. In the case of Capitol Village, so Capitol Village was given conditions during the review report, and we established a timeline from when we'd hear from them again on the academic progress that they've made. But the FCAP and its associated consequences happen on their own timeline based on established milestones, information sharing, and our analysis of that ongoing data throughout the duration of the FCAP, which has a different date outlined in the FCAP itself that is distinct and apart and future-oriented from the review itself.
That's helpful, Will. I thank you for that. I would say, and I think I said this during Capital Village's review, that I remain concerned about their financial stability. I won't go too in depth because obviously they're not here to represent themselves, but I do want to state that for the record. I also want to ask you as it relates to their current status. So they are on an FCAP, and essentially they are non-compliant for one particular metric for one particular period of time of our testing. What are the repercussions for them being non-compliant on that metric? What does it mean for the overall FCAP? What does it mean for our increased or not oversight?
Thank you. Yes. So we staff at DCPCSB are also very concerned about Capital Village missing, failing to meet this FCAP target. So as it pertains to the repercussions of this FCAP target, most specifically on April 14th, we issued a citation of fiscal concern, which I just read into the record a moment ago. And this was in response to the LEA's failure to meet that target. So the FCAP's primary purpose is to clearly establish a path back to health for a school that is ailing. So failure to execute the plan established within the FCAP itself, though, leads to some sort of consequences. The FCAP is designed to help PCSB keep track of and analyze that swiftly. The most extreme case of these consequences might end in a recommendation for revocation, which we would offer if we identified that the school was non-viable, or if we discovered a pattern of mismanagement or non-adherence to GAP, of course. Invariably, the FCAP supports us to identify and view into the future as that may be occurring, if that were to occur. So the FCAP supports us in zooming in on various areas where additional scrutiny and series of question asking needs to occur. So the scrutiny is already there, and the FCAP helps both support the school to focus their efforts on what are the things that are going to get them to a more financially healthy place, and they support us, our team, to zoom in on the areas that we've said are the most challenging spots for a given LEA.
Thank you for that. I particularly want to call out your point about the FCAP being a tool to, I'll paraphrase you, but to guide the LEA back into financial health, right? And so as a part of that conversation, there are certain things that the LEA agrees to do, and then that is memorialized under the FCAP. To that point, as it relates to Capital Village, the notice of the fiscal citation is specifically because there was a strategy or action that was identified under the FCAP that the LEA failed to do. That has, as a subsequent action, has put the LEA in a position where they are reliant upon private contributions. We've talked about that in our meetings. Are we in receipt of information as it relates to those private contributions? Have the monies been received? What do we know about the current status of those contributions that we know are now necessary because the LEA failed to reduce staff as it agreed to in the FCAP?
Thanks for the question. At this point in time, Capital Village has not received the private contributions that they will need because of their failure to enact the strategy to the fidelity that they suggested in our original plan and their original plan.
And knowing that, what is staff's thoughts about the long-term financial health of the LEA?
Yeah, so as we've shared here in a couple different ways, staff is very concerned about this LEA. They have certainly made progress on its financial health metrics, as we've spoken about in several ways. in progress, in particular, and the ones we've laid out in the FCAP, most notably in their impactful lease negotiation, which is where we started. However, the school's not executed other strategies that we've spoken about in terms of their staffing structure and also just controlling expenses. But the second piece of their stability is hinges on their enrollment health, and so we are concerned.
Appropriately so, I think. Thank you, Will. You have answered all my questions, and again, I'm appreciative to you and your team for your deep dive into not only this LEA but other LEAs that are on the monitoring list and those that are on the FCAP. I would just say, again, for the purposes of transparency, the importance of the FCAP and using it as a tool, and LEA's understanding that it is not. The FCAP is not a document that is imposed upon it. It is a document that is collaborative, and it is a document that they understand and agree to, and quite frankly, have quite a bit of input into. And so to be cited as a fiscal concern because they have failed to adhere or they're non-compliant is an issue. Thank you.
Do other board members have questions? I'd like to note for the record, thank you, Will, for your presentation, and thank you, Treasurer Stanley Beatty. I'd like to note for the record that as Dr. Walker Davis stated in her opening remarks, Hope Community Public Charter School has relinquished its charter. Is there any new business? If not, fellow board members, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Excuse me, Vice Chair Sandman. There's one more item on the read into record, our procurement contract.
Yes.
I think you just need to state it like you did for Hope.
I'd like to note for the record that the procurement summary is part of the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'd like to note that for the open meeting agenda. Do any board members have any questions about the procurement summary? Thank you. Is there any new business? Now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the April 28th, 2025 board meeting.
Second.
Secretary Adamafanian, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chairman Sandman,
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty,
Aye.
Board Member Crucy,
Aye.
Board Member Davis.
Aye.
I am an aye, and according to proxy, Chair Wright is an aye as well.
Thank you all. Our meeting is adjourned.